and we're going to get started here with Joan Stanford. Many of you know her as one of the wonderful purveyors of the Stanford Inn up in Mendocino. Today, she's going to be talking to us about the art of play, and I'm just so excited to learn all about this new way of kind of getting in touch with how you're feeling, getting in touch with how you're doing inside, and kind of working and using play and art as a tool. I'm so excited for this presentation. All right, Joan, I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to you, but I'll be here throughout the presentation. And folks, as I mentioned earlier, if you have any questions during the presentation, please just go ahead and leave those in the chat, and we'll make sure and ask Joan on your behalf at the end of the presentation during the Q&A session. All right. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and leave you, Joan, but I'll be right here if you need anything.
Okay. So I'm delighted to be here. Do I have to do anything? Oh, there I am. Thanks, Christy. I'm glad that you're having this event. It seems really timely as we come out of, well, hopefully coming out of quite the year. It's also the spring equinox today, which I thought was kind of fortuitous because that's a time for balancing and recentering and springing into spring with taking care of ourselves. I think it's just a wonderful topic. Because this last year, we've really needed to find ways to take care of ourselves. It's been a time of anxiety and uncertainty, and having to deal with the stress of all that has, I think, really made us think about how to take care of ourselves. And I'm really lucky because obviously I live in Mendocino, and all I have to do to sort of de-stress or reboot is to step outside my door. And we have the forest here and the ocean, and the inn has lovely gardens. And I just get to be in that. And whenever we can step outside, metaphorically or in reality, I think it's a shift. And that's what I'm going to talk about a lot today, is how we shift our focus and how we shift our understanding of things. So I think one of the big things I want to start off by saying is giving ourselves permission to take care of ourselves is pretty big step. And a lot of us really find it difficult. It's sort of a guilty thing, like, oh, I can't take time to read this book or soak in a tub or whatever it is, take a walk. I really need to attend to, quote, important things. And that's partly why I really stress the idea of play, because play is really fun. It's healthy, and it serves us in a lot of ways. So how do we get over that hurdle of giving ourselves permission to take care of ourselves? Hopefully today we'll talk about that a little bit. One of the ways I like to think of it is, how do we be a friend? How are we a friend to someone else? Well, we listen, we're present for them, we're supportive, and sometimes if they're dealing with something difficult, we're helping them look at it differently so that they have a more positive take on it. And we actually, if we can shift that and be a friend to ourselves, doing those same things, that's pretty healing. And what I'm going to talk about today is that it is listening to ourselves, being attentive to ourselves, listening to our thoughts and our feelings and expressing those in a safe way. And if you think about it, a lot of people take care of themselves by going to a therapist, and that's what they're doing. They're in a safe place, and they're basically unloading, they're talking, they're getting underneath the surface about some things. And that's what imagery can do for us, because imagery is like unlocking a doorway. I like to say it's like taking the back off of an antique clock and seeing the workings inside, all those little wheels and so forth, and realizing what really makes it tick. Because what we have going on inside us is rich and mysterious, and it automatically, I think, awakens our curiosity and wonder. So let me look at my notes here. What did I want to say to you to begin with? Well, mainly I wanted to say it should be fun. I want it to be fun. And when I offer play shops here at the inn, I really always stress that. I want to, as much as possible, have us put our inner critics aside, our heavy judge, and just play and see what comes. And when we're having fun, that's really good for our health. I mean, physical, because, you know, endorphins are released and our immune system gets a boost. So right there, it's another good reason to do this. And I think one of the silver linings of this whole pandemic year has been that we've had a forced timeout. We've had to step back from our busy lives. And a lot of us turn to hobbies or hands-on activities because those are nourishing, baking and gardening. And if you had a hobby like painting or something, people went back to that. Maybe they'd abandoned it for years. But there's something about using our hands, and it connects to our bodies and our feelings. So I think that's a good thing to know. And we also had a chance to reflect, which what I'm going to talk about today is a lot about reflecting. And we realized what was really important, which was our health and our loved ones, spending time with our loved ones, especially because we couldn't do it, and with our friends. And we sort of reprioritized. I think we reevaluated what we wanted to do with our time. And we also had to learn how to adapt with change and the unpredictability of it all, as I mentioned a few minutes ago. So today I'm going to share a PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to talk a lot about play, how I look at play and the qualities of play, how I got into this, and why I think it's really useful to reactivate child's spirit that's inside of us, because that's the part that's really curious, and the world is just amazing as a new person coming in. So I'll talk a little bit about that. I have a lot of quotes in there because I love quotes. I find them inspiring. And I'll share some of the things I've done and how I use the process for my own balancing and reflection. And then, as Christy said, if you have questions that come up to you during the PowerPoint, please just jot them down and I'll address them at the end. But I'm one of those people that I kind of get into a flow, and if I don't continue, I'll lose my train of thought, even though the slide will bring me back. And I talk a lot about these journals that I do, where I do a small collage on one side, and then I let the collage speak to me, have a conversation with the images, and write on the other side, a little reflective piece of writing. And I just wanted to share, just so you can get an idea of how small these are. They are pretty small, a little journal. And then I can sort of show you. There's something like there's an image on one side and then the reflective piece on the other side. So that's the visual for what you'll see in the PowerPoint. So let's hope I get this right. I think I can do it. I've practiced. So I'm going to hit my PowerPoint. I'm going to hit share screen, go back to the Zoom, share screen, and go here and go here. Slideshow. Okay, I did it. I'm very proud of myself. I am not a tech person. So, so this title, of course, is what you saw on your promotional piece for this. And I really do want to say that when I'm talking about enchanted childhood or something, I realize that for some people, this is not a reclaiming, it's a claiming for the first time. It's healing from a lot of maybe difficult things when you were little. But I want to just speak that when we first come into the world, when we begin as infants, we learn by discovering through the interplay of ourself, our body, and our environment. How do I not share this? Is there any way I can take myself off and just have this, Christy?
I think if you turn your camera off, then it will go full screen to the slideshow.
I'd rather do that. So where is my camera? Oh, well, we'll do this. I'm just going to be looking at notes. That's the only reason I didn't want that to look really bad. I'll just do this. It's fine. So anyway, we make sense of our experience. We understand by using our senses. So we touch, we taste. If you've seen little children, little wee ones, everything goes in the mouth. And we're eager to interact with our environment. And we play, we discover, we experiment, and it's all through play. Our very nature is play. And when we're playing as young kids, before we sort of get told, no, you can't do that, it's not safe, or we start to go more to wanting approval. When we're just playing, it's about process. It's in the moment. And I'll talk more about that, but it's very enlivening. It's spontaneous. And it's our very nature to be playful. And joy comes with play. It's just they're innately connected in my estimation. And kids, if you think about kids, they have active imaginations. They can pick up a stick and it becomes a wand, or a spoon can be a musical instrument. They're imagining different role plays, and they're just, really, their imagination is really creating realities that they then inhabit. And actually, I'll come back to this later, but we still do that. We just don't acknowledge it all the time. But our imaginations are really creating a lot of what our experience is. So I'm going to go on to another slide here. I think I just want to go forward. So this is sort of how I frame play. I came upon this a long time ago, but I love this definition of play. There's an old Sanskrit word, lila, which means play. Richer than our word, it means divine play, the play of creation, destruction, and recreation, the folding and unfolding of the cosmos. Lila, free and deep, is both the delight and enjoyment of the moment and the play of God. It also means love, which is kind of an interesting thing. Lila may be the simplest thing there is, spontaneous, childish, disarming. Grow and experience the complexities of life. It may also be the most difficult and one achievement imaginable. And its coming of fruition is a kind of homecoming to our true selves. And this to me is the key. And I'll get more into this as we go along. This is a quote by Carl Jung. And of course, many of you may know he's the one that a disciple of Freud, who then really got into the whole concept of the collective unconscious, where images, metaphors, he called them archetypes, resided that were universal, and that we can tap into that through this creative work we do. I like this quote because, again, it's about the creative mind plays with the object it loves. And here's love again. So there's something connected with our playing and our loving of that, and our experience of being alive. There's something in there. Okay, let me look at my notes here for a second. The other reason I really like this quote is because I often think of the great advances that have been made in science and other fields of endeavor, of where somebody was struggling and struggling. And in my mind, it's like a university classroom with blackboards and equations all over all the different blackboards. And the person trying to solve this problem is there puzzling and really struggling to get there. And then one night the person is dreaming, is asleep, and in the dream pops up this answer that was so difficult to find with the other kind of the brain. And why does this happen? I think it happens because the busy brain was asleep, which allowed that channel to the unconscious and other part of our brain to come through. And that other part of our brain has a lot of information if we can tap into it. And so I like that too, because the intellect takes us far, but our intuition and our inner knowing takes us very far as well.
Good.
What's happening here? What's happening here? Why is it not moving forward? Maybe this one? Okay. There'll be periods in presentations before where I will just panic because something doesn't happen instantly. So just bear with me. I'm not a techie, obviously. By my white hair, you know that it's not my native language. So just another quote about play and how I think it really does allow us, if we have that playful part of our brain activated, it's recess for the brain is how I look at it. So what qualities are there in play that, first of all, help us do anything with art, help us do anything with problem solving in general? Because there's a lot of brainstorming that some corporations or businesses do. And they always invite you to think outside the box, to just be playful and just spit it out, be spontaneous. So it's used. We do use it as a technique to access these other areas of our knowing. But it's fun, as I said, it's about discovering, it's experimental. There's less concern about product. And this again is something you'll see with children. They don't care about making a perfectly balanced tower of blocks. They just have fun putting one on top of the other. And then once it's fallen, they often laugh and it's gleeful. And then when they do the next one, they're anticipating that point of tipping. And so it's not about the product, it's about the steps. And of course, that changes at a certain point for most of us. But there is less attachment to a finished product for children. When they're doing finger painting or something, they'll just pick black of all colors or make brown with mixing all the colors together. And that doesn't matter. They're having fun. They're just having fun. It's the doing, the process. And mistakes are usually okay until a certain point. And I tell the story of, I was working with a little kid that had these little cotton balls and was a body and little wiggly eyes. And she was using that white Elmer's glue, and she put too much glue behind the eye, and it slid down from the head ball to the body ball and ended up at the heart. And instead of screaming or getting all upset, she just simply said, "Oh, look, it's a heart with an eye." And I thought that was really neat, because how wonderful to be able to see with our hearts. So there's more of that happy mistakes, that Felix culpa. And of course, it's messy. And we learn when we're playing as little children all sorts of things about making mistakes and perfectionism, determined by how these things are dealt with as children. And so to revisit that kind of playful art making as an adult will heal some of that. It'll get us past this obsession with perfectionism. And perfectionism obviously stops us from even trying. But so I like to point out that. And of course, a kid is very powerful. They're the little emperors. They can make and break rules, and they play their role play. They use their imaginations. They make it up as they go along. I've sometimes played with somebody and done something and been told, no, the witch can't do that. The witch can't do that. So I didn't know that. And you just kind of get into their mode if you're playing with kids, which is one of my pointers at the end here, is play with kids as much as you can to reactivate that part of yourself. So it's engaging, which to me is the most important thing as we grow older, is to stay engaged with life, to stay alive to life. So I have this picture here because little children can of course copy from one another. And I like this because when I worked at the schools, I worked with kids that were struggling, usually marginalized kids, and they had trouble with the academic subjects, and there were all these rules. When they came to me, there were no rules. There were no right or wrong, and they were allowed to copy. And suddenly they had choice, and they were empowered, and they could just, feel a sense of competency that they didn't get other ways. And then this is just to remember when all you needed to express yourself was your imagination. You didn't have all these other voices telling you that you couldn't do it. It wasn't possible. You just could use your imagination. And there's this wonderful poem that I really like, and it sort of talks about that transition to when we leave our imaginations and move into another place. And it's called On Turning 10, and it's by Billy Collins. And I'll read it. The whole idea of it makes me feel like I'm coming down with something worse than any stomach ache or the headaches I get from reading in bad light. A kind of measles of the spirit, a mumps of the psyche, a disfiguring chickenpox of the soul. You tell me it is too early to be looking back, but that is because you have forgotten the perfect simplicity of being one and the beautiful complexity introduced by two. But I can lie on my bed and remember every digit. At 4, I was an Arabian wizard. I could make myself invisible by drinking a glass of milk a certain way. At 7, I was a soldier. At 9, a prince. But now I am mostly at the window, watching the late afternoon sun, Back then, it never fell so solemnly against the side of my treehouse, and my bicycle never leaned against the garage as it does today. All the dark blue speed drained out of it. This is the beginning of sadness, I say to myself, as I walk through the universe in my seekers. It is time to say goodbye to my imaginary friends, time to turn the first big number. It seems only yesterday I used to believe there was nothing under my skin but light. If you cut me, I would shine. But now, when I fall upon the sidewalks of life, I skin my knees, I bleed. And of course, we do bleed. We're adults with an adult awareness, but we definitely are more alive if we can activate that child spirit with that active imagination. And that light is still inside us, no matter how old we get. And I like to say with spring, since the topic, this is spring into spring, is there's always a spring waiting inside us to bloom. And that's our creativity. And it's everyone has it. It's not just for the talented or the trained. Every single person has it. And that's why expressing it is so helpful. And I think, okay, well, that's enough of that. So what we need to acknowledge, I'm going to go back to this one. What we need to acknowledge to get that child spirit back is that it's been lost. It's been taken away in some, through the course of growing up. As I mentioned, it can be squashed either quickly or slowly over time, so that we don't remember that we have this inner knowing, this child that has this active imagination. And when I first got involved in this, I was taking music lessons, and the woman was an expressive arts therapist. So she'd often start the session with us at an art table, and she'd say, "How are you feeling?" And just express it with color and shape and line, and just scribble, whatever you want to do. But she would sometimes give me homework as well. And this one day she was talking to me about what my greatest fear was. And I had young children at the time. And I said, to have a child go missing, that would just drive me crazy. And she said, well, I'd like you to go home and make a poster like you see in the post office for that missing child in you. And this was sort of a radical thing for me to think about. And also, I didn't do art. I wasn't trained, obviously. But I had a pad, or my kids had a pad of newsprint, big pad. And I had the spiral at the top, and I had a little set of watercolor paints, the 6 little ovals. And I wrote missing across the top, really kind of watery letters. And then I drew this head, and I just started thinking about who I was as a little girl. And these different images came. And I love her. She's on my business card. And I really, really got something through the process of doing this. And that's part of what is so exciting to me about this work, because that's the curiosity. You really never know when you start what's going to come, unless even if you have a plan, it tends to go awry sometimes. And I do a lot of collaging, and often when I go to glue something down, I like the flip side better than the one that I thought I was going to use. And so that's another surprise. So surprises are exciting, and they do make you curious what's going to happen next. Anyway, when I did this, I then wrote a little poem about where is this child, and where is this child? And I had wanted her to have these wide eyes with lots of color in them, and apple cheeks. And I liked barrettes as a kid, and people would give me different barrettes. I had little moon-shaped barrettes. And what was I like as a child? I was this child that just kind of was full of wonder, full of light, like the Billy Collins poem. And I was a child of wishes and wonder, and running and skipping and singing and swinging and playing with days. Where is the child of purple and red, asleep or dead, an adult instead? And this was kind of where this directed me more into looking into what is it that a child has, or what am I missing by not having that child spirit alive in me? And what I really got was that what I was missing was paying attention to what was inside me, my inner knowing. And I called it silenced. because I was no longer hearing that voice. And if you think about it, the story of the emperor's clothes, it was a child who said, but he's not wearing any clothes because he trusted his own eyes versus the consensus reality. And it's a balance. I mean, obviously there is a consensus reality, but we can't abandon our own understandings of things. And I think it's really important to remember that we do have, as I said earlier, this rich world inside us, and we all have our own imagery banks. And I'll talk more about that later. So, excuse me. So when we disconnect from that inner self and our own inner knowing, I think it's because we're too busy. And I like to say the soul speaks in whispers, and we have to be very quiet to hear. And a lot of us may have practices that we do to quiet ourselves down, to slow ourselves down. And this process of doing art in a playful way is a stepping outside of that busyness that I mentioned. And it's a way of focusing and being still. So I started listening to myself, as I said. And I started doing a lot of different things. And this was a scribble drawing. And I like it because it's like this guy down here is pulling a string, and I called it Coming Apart at My Seams, SEEMS, because from the outside, everything seemed wonderful with my life. It was like a case of like, what do I have to complain about? But I was feeling agitated and resentful and frustrated a lot of the time. And I was always rushing, and I wanted this, and I envied other people, and all those things that are kind of negative self-talk stuff. And so what I realized I was doing was I was looking a lot at the surface of things, and I needed to pay more attention to what was inside. So go beyond the seams and get to what's really going on. This is another one along the same theme, done in a completely different time. But again, it's sort of, I just intuitively found this image of some kind of barky stuff with some fiber. And then I also found this little crocheted dress, and I don't know why it had that funny thing on it, but when I put the two together, it felt like the same thing. There was a fraying happening. And again, I always try and do, well, now I always try and do a reflective, I didn't start out this way, but I try to do a reflective piece. And that, by the way, is called a soul collage card. And that's a process that Sena Frost, SEENA Frost, came up with. It's a wonderful process. There's a lot on the internet about it. And you do a collage, and then you write about the collage from the I am place. And she has a whole set of different suits. And this was one of the suits is the committee, which is all these different voices in our heads. So I called this one, I'm the one who fears all things will unravel, with one tiny snag. I feel vulnerable in the face of so many strings, things falling apart, creating emptiness, no thingness. I am afraid, I am afraid. So again, it's surprising that that came from those two basic images. That's all that was in this collage, these two basic images, the fiber stuff here and the little dress there. So I'm going to skip this one, another sort of series. This side I really love because it's a Larson cartoon. And why I have this in here is because it's really showing what I spoke about earlier about how we still create our own realities with our imaginations. We just don't always acknowledge it because we're always viewing everything through our own lens, which is selective and can be faulty. Like this picture showing that he has a fly stuck on his glass. So he's painting the picture of the woman with this big bulbous thing on her face, because that's what he's seeing through his own lens. So the more we can clarify and focus and see that possibly we're projecting faulty onto somebody or onto our lives, something, the more that takes care of ourselves, the better we are able to live our lives. And so getting clear on how we see and what we see. Let me just see, I did have a note here. I think it just, and this, to do that kind of seeing, to look at how we're seeing, requires a witness place, which means a separation. And this is why art, doing something on paper, is so good. It gives us a little separation, and we can then have a relationship with whatever object we've created. So moving on, here's one of the quotes. I told you I'm a quote collector. This is just the idea that I really want to keep alive a sense of wonder in me, because it makes such a difference, so that we don't get jaded, that we don't get cynical, and we don't get depressed. If we keep that sense of wonder alive throughout our whole lives, I mean, life is a big mystery. And it's wonderful that we're here in a body with senses for just this little brief moment in this huge span of time, in this huge universe. So just right there, I mean, that's something to wonder about. And this, of course, is by Rachel Carson, who wrote Silent Spring and created the whole sort of environmental awareness. And she was a biologist, I think. Anyway, the whole world of nature is just so full of wonder. If you look at anything through a microscope, or just go for a walk and see all the things growing in a forest, it's amazing. So that sense is also, it's enlivening. And I think this is a really great quote. It's very true that if we give up wonder, we're basically giving up our joy, and it wrinkles our soul. So that's just another one of those. So I have this in here because a lot of these presentations I do are to other therapists and that sort of thing. And I like to talk about what happened to me as I started to explore with a playful approach to art making, and allowed myself to do it, because, as I say, I wasn't an artist, and I had no sense that I could do anything like that it would be helpful to me. I just had to trust it. And so basically what happened was a major shift, and it's a continuum. I'm not always in that wonderful place, but it's a shift from a passive victim to being an active participant in my life, to recognizing that I am the agent of my life. I have agency. And when you're doing art process, you are making decisions, you're making rules, you're breaking rules. You have to begin somewhere. So right away, you're being the agent. Your agency is given back to you, and it's empowering to do that. When you tend to think, oh, I don't have enough time. I can't get on top of time. And then you do something like that, and it starts to shift your whole concept of time, and how are you using your time. And anyway, I have this in here because a lot of people find this very, very useful, especially the shift from feeling like I couldn't talk about things, that certain things were off the ticket. We can't just talk about it. And we're in a business, in keeping, there isn't Friday, Saturday, there aren't holidays. It's a 24/7 business. And we still live on the property, but to begin with, for the first 8 years, we actually lived in a room, and we had, 2 kids and pets and staff, and we were totally enveloped by the business. And there was no separation between work and home and family and staff. It was all one big family, and it's good. And it had a lot of huge advantages, but it also meant that I was a little bit crazy at times. And so it's interesting that what I got into when I really started doing this for my own self was collage, because collage is about separating out and then putting back together. So I always think that any kind of self-work requires a deconstruction and a reconstruction, which collaging is. And that coming apart at my seams was that same sort of thing. Like, I had to disassemble. I had to stop being who I was, in a way, to allow somebody new to emerge. And I have this here because this is more about how I work with other people, but I have a lot of different materials to stimulate. If you're at home, if you have magazines, several images to play with. Again, it's because having to choose, having to start somewhere is empowering, and it's helpful. And there's all sorts of non-threatening activities to do. If this is brand new to you, you can scribble and just look for things in there. Like, you may have looked at clouds as a kid on your back and saw a unicorn or a castle or an angel. Same sort of thing. You just do a scribble and another scribble, and you can use different colors. It's basically, we used to say, taking a line for a walk and seeing what happens. And the whole thing is, we get back into our bodies, and that's back into our senses, and that is really enlivening. And so I'm going to show you some of the things from when I do these things here. But I love this quote down here too: creativity is intelligence having fun. And man is most nearly himself when he achieves the seriousness of a child at play. And for children, play is serious. I mean, it is how they're building the blocks. And our images are all very personal. We have image banks. And when we start to do this work, we're going into those image banks, because I can say to you, think of a tree. And the word tree is the word tree. But if each of you think of a tree, you may all have a different tree. And I'll do this in a group and ask you to see a tree and put it in a setting. And almost very, well, sometimes because it happens here, there may be more than one redwood, but usually it's a very different tree and the settings are always different. And that's just interesting to me. And you have to remember that your own imagery is your own imagery. Oh, here we go again. So right now, because of the pandemic, I had to move all my art supplies out of my studio office into the large yoga room. So I have all these different materials, and I'll just quickly go through these. Magazines, papers, feathers, natural objects. And I do a lot of work with pizza rounds and masks and cardboard and things, and then lots of different jewels and things like that. And more magazines and more ribbons and papers and things. And when I have people work, right now, everybody's very spread out. I sometimes have 2 or 3 at a time, sometimes just one. But I have them do that reflective piece when they're finished. So here's somebody and here's another person both doing these. And this was recently during the pandemic. I did a retreat for the Cancer Center caregivers. This was in another room actually, but I had to use different spaces if I had more participants. So she's just having at it on a pizza round. This was actually a fun one. This was a wedding, and the bride wanted to do a play shop instead of another activity. So the cocktail hour was the cocktails and then the play shop. And it was a lot of people. We did it in the dining room. This is another collage, like a soul collage card, but I didn't do it as a soul collage, but I think it's about that size. And now I'm doing them to handle, and I'm going to go through a series of things, how I use them. But right now I'm really caring about, the state of the earth and what we've done to our oceans and our planet. So this is kind of like a little native person who I tend to romanticize a bit, that they had more concept of that 7th generation and they cared for the land more. They understood their relationship more. And I threw that life preserver in because our oceans are in need of help. There's another one about taking care of the earth, because that's kind of where my consciousness has been lately. I did these, the journals I mentioned. The next series are from my little journal. And I did this one of a person spinning, trying to find their center with their losing their hat and everything's chaotic. When my husband, Jeff, had a knee problem and he had to be basically inactive for a couple of months before he could get the surgery, he couldn't do anything. And I was responsible for the inn and the animals and everything, and was feeling pretty overwhelmed and trying to stay centered in it all, feeling pulled by a lot. And at the same time, some trees fell over on the property, and I felt like, everything's upside down. Little did I know this would be very applicable to this year when things really went upside down. This is another one. At that same time, I felt like a little child thrown into a stormy sea and out of not up to the task at all. But doing these kind of took care of that. It was a place to put those feelings, a safe container. And they gave me some comfort. This was when we actually went into the hospital, and it was like two little people going into the big medical world, which luckily we hadn't had to do and hopefully don't. And this was really significant for me, because I felt like it was really about accepting our vulnerability and our lack of control and surrendering to the process, like getting on a jet plane. I always feel like, okay, I can't do anything. If anything happens, I just have to go with it. And what that did was it really made me realize that I don't have control. That's kind of an illusion. And this year again has really made that apparent, because all of our planning and all the things we had calendared had to be abandoned. We don't control everything. How are we with that? How are we with that as people? then I did during our shelter in place time, I did a whole complete journal just about the experiences of that. And it was so scary. This is called falling down the rabbit hole, because we didn't know if the inn would survive, if what would happen or anything. And so this next series is just about that time. This was like the long journey that we're in a tunnel and there's steps to get out of it. But is there light? I hope there's light, and send in the canary, that kind of feeling, that just really trying to have trust. And it took care of a lot of my anxiety. I did one with nuns in a cloistered situation. And I thought about people through time that had to be cloistered because they retired from the world. And we kind of retired from the world, all of us. And so it was just interesting to get those little insights. Another one from that period called Just Disconnected. Like everything was kind of not making sense anymore. And I'm just showing these to show how it serves me. That's another one, balancing, trying to find my balance, really wanting there was a magic genie that I could rub a bottle and it could answer our wishes, both personal and collective. But I kind of wanted you to also get an idea that they're just scraps sometimes. They're not elaborate. They're just, images from calendars or cards or magazines. Sometimes phrases will trigger something for me. I did this one after the shootings in Paris 5 years ago, because that really upset me, because I pictured, Paris is a beautiful city, and I pictured all these people in an outdoor, cafe or bar having a lovely time, and then boom, the terrorist attack happened. But what really struck me was that going around the internet at that time was a man who he lost his wife, and he had a young 17-month-old child, and he said, "I will not let them win. I will not hate. I choose love." And I remember that just like really, I wanted to hold on to that, I think. And this is from a long time ago too. Again, I'm intuitively finding some images. I like the pencil, I like the finger, and somehow they went together when I started to put it together. And I'm going to read this because I kind of want to remind myself this often too. The point is to hear the music of the morning, to be the music of the day, to appreciate the lows and high notes, the pauses, the crescendos, to sing the blues, to dance the sorrows, to move the energy. And in the Hawaiian philosophy of Huna, it says that energy flows where attention goes. So again, wanting to make the choice where my attention is going. What am I giving attention to? Am I choosing to be angry? Am I choosing to be more optimistic about something, and directing my energy in a more positive direction? So how does it serve us? How does being curious help us take care of ourselves? Well, a curious mind is an active mind. It's seeking information, it's asking questions, and it's not feeling like they know everything. So going back to that beginning place, it's also asking, what if? Let's look at it this way, which allows reframing and problem solving. It's definitely helpful for navigating change, and life is all about change, as I said this year definitely told us. And it allows us to step inside someone else's shoes, which allows us to be less judgmental and more empathetic. So it therefore expands our awareness of the human condition. And I put this quote in because when it's over, I want to say that I was married to amazement, and I took the words into my arm. I had this intimate relationship with my life. I wasn't separated, and I still felt excited every day. So this is from When Death Comes, a poem by her. And this I threw in because it's just one of those styrofoam things that come in when you get some device or something. And then this is something from a computer in the middle there. But it reminds me, well, at the time I did it, I think I was thinking about how we meet people in life and we have an instant connection to them, and how strange that is out of all the people we can meet. So I think it was about mysterious connections when I did it, but I was really just playing. I mean, I'm always just playing. This is a great one too. When we trust our creativity, we come into a supreme kind of enjoyment. I hope that's true for people. And I really want people to approach it as something enjoyable. It's awful if you feel like, it's intimidating, which is why I stress play over and over and over. I want it to be accessible to go in that door. And behind that door, behind that door is magic, really. If you think about it, it's all sorts of stuff you didn't know was there. You're going into a trunk in the attic and finding all sorts of treasures. It's another way of experiencing. So this one, I love it. It's animated. This is about making our senses sharper. And when you think about doing art, it is about perception, and sharpening our perception, understanding things. I mean, if you ever take an art course, which I finally did, you learn about perspective, you learn about values and shading and shadows and all sorts of things. So then when you go to an art gallery, you see more, you look for more. And I think what we have to remember is that culture really is all about the arts. It's when you speak about a culture, you speak about its music, its dances, its artworks. It's all the things that express the human condition. And so the more that we fine tune ourselves, I think the better. I think I'm almost done. Oh, this one I put in because it's a pizza round, and it's got different types of papers on the background, tissue paper. It's got a little kind of spool thing with thread coming off it. It's got feathers and some starry stuff. Feels very childlike to me, very, very childlike. And I have these words because I was at a play shop hosting an event for a group, and we had all these different things out, and my partner in the group and the group leader had this fabric, and it was probably, you could make a little book with these words on it. And one of the words, or this phrase, was "and on that day blossom." And I cut those out, and I just loved it because it felt like it went on here. And then somebody looked at it and said effervescence, and I didn't know what that was. So being curious, I looked it up. And of course, we're Googling all the time now. It's like we just don't acknowledge how curious we are and how hungry we are for new information. And I love this. It's just about growing and developing. And as long as we keep that child part of ourselves, I feel like we're continually able to do that. We're never too old to play. And it is spring, as I said, and everything is bursting into bloom. And it often comes after a dark winter where seeds have been underground and incubating. And that's part of life. The dark winter is part of life. And I'm not saying that we don't acknowledge that. I think we definitely do. But that's all part of the flowering, that process. So being in whatever condition you're in, whether you're depressed, whether you're worn out, burnt out. And a lot of the people that come here are really busy people, and they are burnt out. They're here on a very brief vacation, and they haven't done any art or anything for a very long time, the ones that come to me. And it's like, to see them play, it's really wonderful. Jeff often says that we should take a picture before and after because they really look lighter. They look younger. And I think it is because we've just played for an hour and a half or 2 hours. And I let them, it's totally tailored to the person. And I just basically introduce them to the materials, give them some suggestions if they need suggestions. A lot of people do vision boards, which is when you try to imagine what you want to invite into your life going forward and what you might need to let go of to have that be possible. And then this is just my really take on it. I'm wanting people to feel like their life is a painting, their life is a poem, that there's a creative element. And people express creativity in how they cook, how they plate, how they dress, how they, the kinds of things they like, their earrings, whatever. And they just don't acknowledge that they're creative. And so I think it's the more that we acknowledge our own creativity and have fun with it, the more alive we are. And then, as I said, the byproduct is joy. And these are kids, I think, maybe catching snowflakes on their tongues like I used to do. Women dancing, not caring what their body type is, just dancing, having fun. And a woman, her name is Charity. I'll get the name for you if you're interested. She actually just recently died, but an art therapist that had a podcast, and every day she did like these collages, and the site was 14 something for a happy artist life or something like that. And they're wonderful. So I have a few in here. A little girl once believed in magic and embraced a world full of possibility. Art nourishes our world. It's necessary to live. And play more and come to life. And for me, that's what it's all about. It's how we stay engaged in our own lives. I think I'm repeating myself here, but I think that's probably time. How am I doing with my time, Christy?
We have a couple minutes left for questions if folks want to put those in the chat. Thank you so much, Joan. This has been so educational and really empowering also. I love that. I love encouraging people to just kind of use what's around them. You don't need special tools. You don't need to go out and invest in a whole new paint set or something like that. It could be as simple as taking out some old magazines and some glue and some scissors and just have fun and just let your imagination run wild.
Yeah, and it's meant, I think the more accessible it is and that you don't have to get fancy art supplies, makes it like, it takes that edge off of being meaningful. Like, you know, if you have a fancy journal, it's hard to write in it. You don't want to spoil it. But if you just have like normal stuff and you have magazines or calendars or cards or whatever, and you just start to do something, yeah, you don't need a fancy thing. And I have my little last slide is just a plug. I do have a book and I do have an email, but I think Christy's going to share my email, so I don't need to keep that up, and I don't do any of that social media stuff anymore. So anyway, thanks for listening. Thanks for having me, Christy, and I'm happy to answer questions. I'm going to stop share. Right? Stop.
Yeah, and we're good to go. And we did have a couple of questions for you. And I think the technological hurdles were only like half an inch tall. You jumped right over those with flying colors.
Yay, thank you.
So we did have a question from Rob. He says, what can we do to encourage more play in our lives that's a little more accessible than art? A lot of times I don't have the inertia to get my art supplies and set up. It just doesn't happen. So if people are feeling kind of blocked and kind of feeling like, oh, I don't want to get out all of my art supplies, what would be like a quick and easy accessible exercise?
Well, I think if you have paper, and I'm a big, what do you call that, believer in having something trigger a response, because images are evocative. So if you find an image or a phrase or a word, and then just do something in response to it, whether you're drawing or whether you're collaging or whatever. I have actually a page, I didn't make a slide out of it, but these are some suggestions I have for like pulling a card from a deck. You know, there's lots of decks. This is one that I use a fair bit. It's called Earth Magic. But you know, there's cards and they have an image, and then the little booklet will have a write-up. And sometimes you do that and the imagery will spark something. The trigger, as long as something triggers it, or if let's say you're okay, he's used the word inertia. Is that the word he used? If you take a word that comes up for you, then just do something in response to that intuitively with magazines or whatever. Scissors, you don't even need scissors. You can just tear and glue things. Sometimes I'll suggest they do a thing with a word and each letter of the word, like love, and do something for the L, like an image from L, like maybe, what did I have here? Listening, like an ear or something. And then O for being open-hearted, and maybe have like a sunrise or something suggesting openness, something like that. Just, or leading questions like, what does my soul want me to know? What do I feel is missing? What does my inner child want or need? What about my wise woman or wise man, my creative spirit? You can ask questions of yourself as a trigger as well. A photograph can start you going down a path. It's really something, as I said, that just kind of opens up the door. Whatever works for you. Like, it sounds like he's a real artist because he has art supplies. So sometimes that's harder, much harder, because you do have expectation. And you have to basically say, well, I'm not the artist doing this. I'm the 3-year-old doing this. And I don't know a thing about art. And then just start from this very unknowing place with that sense of experimentation and discovery. And maybe that helps you get started. I don't know. I hope you get started, though.
I think that's such a great idea, to just put yourself in the mindset of your inner child, so you can remove those inhibitions, and you can remove those roadblocks that you're setting up for yourself, and just allow yourself the time to to explore and be creative. I think that's just such a brilliant way to bring a new element of self-care into your regime. If this isn't something that you have ever played with, everybody out there, I highly recommend that you do it. I've read Joan's book and it's fantastic. I highly recommend folks get it. It's The Art of Play, and it's available. You can get it on the Stanford Inn website. You can also go see all the many services that are available at Stanford Inn at stanfordinn.com. There's a wonderful vegan restaurant there, the Ravens. Joan's other book is also Dining at the Ravens, so a little sneak peek into one of the best vegan restaurants on the face of the planet. And I really appreciate you being with us today, Joan. This has been so much fun. This has been really inspirational for me. I hope that everybody else has found it inspiring, and can't wait to get out there and engage in some play.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's always fun to talk about it. So I'm very grateful that you let me come in today. And I do think, just to underline the self-care aspect, that again, it's just taking time. If you soak in a tub, take a walk, anything you do that just kind of takes care of yourself, do it, because we need it and the world needs it. So this is just another tool. And thank you for letting me share.
I'm here.
Hi, Nina.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. And yourself?
I'm great. I am just so excited for all of the wonderful skincare little tips and tricks you're going to be sharing with us. All these at-home remedies. I'm absolutely thrilled.
And I've got a bowl full and more.
All righty, let me see. Okay, looks like I'm good to go on my end. Are you good to go on your end?
Yes. You have to start me on the video, it says.
Oh, here we go. Whoops. No.
Okay, I'm coming in.
There we go. Hi.
I'm here. How are you, Christy?
It's so good to see you, Nina.
And so good to see you. First day of spring. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my favorite season for sure.
It is the best, that's for sure. And I am sure that we're going to have a lot of questions popping up during your presentation. I just want to remind everybody, go ahead and put those in the chat, and we will have a Q&A session with Nina after her presentation. And with that, I'm going to scoot on out of here, but I will be here if you need me, Nina.
Thank you, Christy. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. And thank you again, Christy, for having me join this spring, and my segment on spring clean and spring beauty. It's one of my favorite. I just want to say I love Joan's presentation. I love the Stanford Inn. I attended culinary school at Living Like Culinary in Fort Bragg. So right there where the Raven is in the Stanford Inn, I went every opportunity I could. Living Like Culinary Institute was all raw and vegan. So I really practiced that, a high raw diet. And then I went on to New York to the Natural Gourmet Culinary School. And we really focused again on plant-based, raw and cooked, and also food as medicine. So when people had dis-ease and then disease, how we dealt with them. But a parallel to my food and culinary life, which I've been cooking since I was 8 with my mom, as she a home cook, and my dad as a professional chef in catering, skincare, which is just self-care to me. It's a part of hygiene, natural hygiene, and naturopathic studies that I did. So when I look at what we eat and how we take care of one of the largest living organs of the body, our skin that we're wrapped in, it's kind of the bag we're in. They're very parallel to me, because if we go back through history, our first skincare products were and are today food. So I've done several presentations, and one specifically entitled Eat Your Skincare. And it's really important, you know, using good products to put on the skin externally, but what's going to really matter and what's going to really be telling about your skin is what we eat. And even more than what we eat, what we digest and what we absorb. So we'll get into that today. But I've been doing skincare since high school. I was in an ROP program, regional occupational program, and I was licensed as a cosmetologist with a specific specification in skin. So I've been doing this a while, and I had my own holistic skincare practice that included aromatherapy and reflexology and holistic skincare, which we're going to talk about today, for over 20 years between Beverly Hills and West Hollywood. So I've just kind of weaved and danced and played, as Joan said, loving what I do and having a passion for it in both the culinary and beauty holistic healthcare realms, because they're both so important to me. But our skin, and mainly the neck up, is what people see. It's what we present to the world, right? So it's very telling of our emotions. If someone gets nervous, they tend to flush, or if we're not feeling so well, if someone's really paying attention, they can see that in our skin, our hormones, toxicity levels. You know, I've traveled to different areas and I know how my skin is different from where I live in California or LA. I'm in Northern California right now, or say I go to the East Coast. I'm very sensitive to how element affects my skin. Do we have artificial temperatures, heaters running, and air conditioning, all of these things? And of course, the sun, ultraviolet rays are going to definitely affect us. So if we think about our skin as a mirror of our body, what's going on internally, whether it's the heart, the lungs, and in traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda lifestyle, we really can look at the face, the hands, the ears, the feet, telling us really what's going on inside. And I've studied all of these things. It's a lifelong study. I never stop learning. So very excited to present these things to you. But aging is a natural, I've got notes all around me because I could spend a whole week with you on these things. Aging is a natural process, but then excessive aging is something that we have control of. When I first started learning, they always talked about genetics. Genetics, it's determined, you can't do anything about it. Well, now we know that lifestyle is more conducive to our aging process, whether how we age, how slow we age, or how fast we age. So we actually have more control of it than maybe we've thought in the past. But our body is made up of about 60%, higher percentages depending on the organs and all our heart or our lungs. But we need to be taking in hydration and liquids, because often you'll hear someone say, well, drink half your weight in ounces of water, right? So if I weigh 150 pounds, that sounds good right now. If I weigh 150 pounds, I weigh more, then I should be having at least 75 ounces of water a day. But you have to consider, do you exercise? How much do you exert? What's the temperatures, environment that we live in causing you to sweat and releasing fluids, hydration from the body, and then the skin's going to show that. So I want you to think about the things we're going to be talking about today really are about whole plant-based foods, because since the beginning, they have been the best foods for our skin. And I'm going to focus on some of these things. So if we look at the skin and we know that we're a water being, we're a body of water and hydration, we're going to want to eat foods, not just drink water. We're going to want to eat foods that have high hydration, high liquid, high water content. And those would be our fruits and our vegetables. So that's one of the things you want to think about when we're talking about eat your skincare. There are many things then that come into play enzymes are really important. They're the worker bees to break down the fats, the carbohydrates, the proteins in the body that we're ingesting, so that our body can not only digest, but absorb and pick up those nutrients, get into the bloodstream, and do the things that need to be done for our body. So enzymes are naturally found in raw, not cooked, raw fruits and vegetables. If we cook our foods over anywhere from 106 to 118 degrees, we basically kill the enzymes. They are very heat temperature sensitive. So if you're not, getting a lot of fruits and vegetables in your diet, you do want to increase that. Or you can get a supplement form of enzymes. And I'm sharing with you things I take. I'm sharing with you today things that I've not only used myself as a living lab to see how they work, but also in my practice of holistic skin and body care. I've been able to work on hundreds, maybe even thousands of clients that have gotten results from the things that I know to be true. And I'm a very loyal person once I find a product I like. So I'm sharing these things with you. It's your choice to go out and research them more as far as the company goes, but you do want to, today's lifestyle of stress and just maybe not being able to eat the best we want to all the time, you do, if you haven't yet started, want to include probably an enzyme supplement in your diet. And these will have all the enzymes that you need. They're in capsule form. I take 2 a day or more, depending on if I'm traveling. That affects how I eat, that affects how I feel. But my fruits and vegetables, because I eat such a high diet of those things raw through my salads and just my fruits, enzymes are going to be very important for breaking down, again, the fats, the proteins, the carbohydrates. And that's helping, one, with our immune system, and our skin is a part of our immune system. So you want to realize that you want to increase your health. We want to strengthen our immune system. I don't think I have to belabor that, because we're all aware of that, especially in the climate and season that we're in right now, and what we've really gone through in the last year with such a high concentration on the importance of having a very strong immune system. So enzymes are very important for digestion and absorption. Fiber is another such an important thing for beautiful skin, glowing skin, and that we're going to again get from our leafy greens and our fruits and our vegetables, even our legumes and our grains, ancient grains, our nuts and seeds. So fiber, think of it like internal cleansing and moving out debris and toxicity, moving things through and out the large intestine, and really helping the skin look good. So if someone's suffering from acne prone skin, or if someone has rosacea, very sensitive skin, or if you're retaining water, say in your ankles or just in the skin, making it then more sensitive, there's going to be inflammation, and inflammation is going to speed the aging process. So we also want to get a lot of fiber, enough fiber in our diet to help, and it works to be anti-inflammatory. So again, you want to get that through your fruits and your vegetables. I've got berries here and blackberries that I eat a lot. I will bring in raspberries. I will bring in pomegranate seeds, but it's really important to get a lot of your, not only antioxidants that these foods have for us to help build body cells and organ cells, but the anthocyanins that are in your dark fruits like blue and purple and black, that is also very important. I'm saying a lot. I'm trying to get a lot in, but it will be recorded, and the information that I'm sharing today, I'm also going to give Christy, provide Christy with resources that you can look into more, but these are easy things. You do want your berries, because they're such thin-skinned fruits, to be organic. And you can look at EWG, that's the Environmental Working Group, .org, and they put out a list of the dirty dozen fruits and vegetables that you want to make sure you're getting organic or know their source and traceability, that there are no pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, because that toxicity will take up. And then they also put out a list, the Clean 15, those produce that you don't have to be so concerned with if they're not organic. So you can decide where you want to spend your money. Like, I rarely buy organic avocados because the skin is so thick, but I don't need to worry about buying organic, right? But I really put my money to those things where I know more pesticides could potentially be used, and that's going to be more toxicity that my body is going to take up. So we've talked about the importance of enzymes working to help the body better digest, better absorb, and use that energy. We've talked about the importance of fiber. We've talked about the importance of water, but does that come from purified water, distilled water, or is that coming from the foods we eat, those higher content water containing fruits and high water content vegetables, such as cucumbers, almost all water. Celery is almost all water. So you want to start thinking about not just what you're eating, but what it's doing and how it's serving your body to get the nutrients and nutrient density that you want. So fiber is going to be important. Phytonutrients are going to be important. Antioxidants are going to be important. Anthocyanins are going to be important. I know it sounds like we're speaking Latin. I did take Latin in Catholic school in high school. And it's really good for me because I understand the etymology of words. But these are things you want to be aware of. And I want to make sure there's so much I want to share with you. Vitamin C is so important, internally taken. Yes, I know we're using a lot of vitamin C type products topically on our skin, and vitamin A type products, retin A, retinol. We need to be also careful with that. The skin will take up so much. The skin is hydrophilic and lipophilic, but it has to be the right molecule size for the skin to really absorb. So when we talk about aromatherapy, essential oils are very microscopically small and they're lipophilic, so they're absorbed into the body through the follicle where there's sebum. So we'll put a carrier oil or an essential oil in a carrier oil so it's more readily absorbed by the skin. And some essential oils should never go on the skin neat, pure, without being in a carrier oil, because it actually could burn the skin. But we're going to talk more about the aromatherapy part of it after we get through. I want you to really identify and understand how important what we eat affects how we look and how we feel. Essential fatty acids are so important, and getting those through things like chia seeds. Now, I took these chia seeds just to make a point about skincare and food. And chia seeds are very gelatinous. So I just took the seeds, I only put them in water. I'll add this to my smoothie. I'll make a pudding, I'll make a porridge, but this is just in water to show the point that chia seeds will hold up to 1,000 times their weight in water. So it's gonna get very gelatinous, but this could also be made into a gel mask. I could put this on my face with the whole chia seeds, and I could grind up the chia seeds, then add them to water, let it get gelatinous, and I could then put that all over my skin. Chia is rich in essential fatty acids, which help to build our cells. So great for cell rejuvenation. It's very important, essential fatty acids for the brain. So we've got chia, we've got flax, we've got hemp seeds that we can put in our smoothies. We can sprinkle these things on our salads. We can add chia seeds to our water and just drink it. I would put my hemp, my chia, my flax, I'll put it in my smoothie. So you're just increasing your nutrient density for your body to take these foods in. One important thing, very important thing with smoothies, and I think people think, well, it's a liquid. You want to still chew. chewing is one of the most important things with regards to, yes, we're eating great foods, but if we're not chewing it and really breaking down, especially the carbohydrates, but all of the solid foods in our mouth, where the saliva contains amylase enzyme, one of the many things the saliva contains that actually breaks down carbohydrates. So there's better digestibility when it gets to the stomach. And then the hydrochloric acid in the stomach is really going to break down the proteins and fats. But in the 1950s, they actually had chewing classes to teach people how to chew. So you didn't swallow before you had chewed like 25 times. Now, what's the beauty benefit of that? While you're using the masticator, you're doing all this movement from your lower jaw, affecting the whole face, and then the neck down to the terminus. So from the head down to the terminus, we've got lymphatic drainage. And lymphatic drainage is so important to remove toxicity from the body. But from the head down, it comes to the terminus here. From the feet, it works its way up. We have the popliteal cavity at the back of the knee. We have the inguinal nodes here in the our pelvic region, and then we've got nodes under the arm. So the body has a whole system, the lymphatic system, just as it does the circulatory system. But with our circulatory system moving our blood, that's going to the cells to nourish, and it's carrying that from the foods we eat to nourish the cells. It has the heart that is able to pump. The lymphatic system doesn't have a heart pumping mechanism. So it can get sluggish, and often we'll see this in swelling and sensitivity in the skin. So we need to stretch and breathe. And then I've been trained as a professional in manual lymphatic drainage. There are mechanical forms of lymphatic drainage that we use, but by chewing, we're exercising that and we're helping draining here. What happens when we start aging and lymph is stagnant? We start seeing the jowls, we start seeing double chin because there's fluids that get stagnant. We see puffiness in the skin. You know, when you've laid down, we get like a pool of lymph because it has nothing to move it, right? But 15 minutes after we've gotten up, you'll notice, if you pay attention, you'll notice your skin looks less puffy. If it still is puffy, maybe it's sinus congestion. Maybe it's just a stagnant lift. So through chewing our food, it does not only help to digest, so nutrients can be extracted from the foods we're eating to better support the body on a cellular level and a molecular level, but it also then does help to keep this area tighter and smooth. What about occupational hazard? I've been in the beauty industry and I've been in the culinary industry, and everything for my work has been this tilt down, whether I'm doing a facial or whether I'm cutting something. So this here at the back of my neck, and then here, I've got to be very mindful of exercising and lifting up and pulling things up. But when I'm draining the lymph system, it's a very light pumping that we're doing. When we want to then, after removing toxins out, then we want to lift and nourish and rejuvenate the skin, and we work up. So essential fatty acids that are food for our brain, rejuvenation for our cells include hemp, flax, and chia, main concentrations. And then you can see just how gelatinous this can become. And it's just a matter of how much fluid I'm adding to the seeds. It can get quite solid. And this hadn't sat long in the refrigerator where I could turn it upside down and it wouldn't spill out. How are we doing, Christy? Is this sounding good?
Yeah, it's sounding great. I love all of these tips.
I'm trying to give you so many hacks that it will take you all the way through 2021. And every day you'll remember something else I shared. I talked about the importance of water. You know, marketers have put out smart water, but the smartest water we can take in is through our fruits and vegetables. And adding then something like citrus, which are great, just the contents, the chemical nature, everything is a chemical, but not synthetic. There's the difference. We have to understand Our whole natural environment, Mother Nature is a bowl of just a forest of chemicals, which isn't a bad thing until they're synthesized, because the body doesn't recognize synthetic vitamins like the body will recognize, and the brain, a natural vitamin. And when we extract, say, vitamin C from something and we isolate it, we have a problem, because Mother Nature put everything, and this is my own water, so I can do this, my hands are clean, in this lime or in this lemon. It's not just about the vitamin C content in here. There are so many other things, flavonoids and all the citrus and the fiber, everything works together. But I will make my picture of my water, my citrus water, or I'll sometimes slice my cucumbers, but then I let it infuse so you can see the aspects of the lime and lemon. So in the morning, think about this. When we go to bed at night, if most of us, I don't always get 8 hours of sleep, which everyone classifies as the beauty sleep. But I'll tell you, the more you eat a plant-based diet, especially a high-level raw diet, your body is vibrating on such a high level, you may find you don't need 8 hours of sleep because your body is functioning better. When we sleep, that is the time our body gets to rest, rejuvenate, and repair. And if we're not getting a lot of good sleep, and rest is really important, because people can sleep 8 hours, but they may not be resting properly. And I mean, that's tossing and turning in their sleep. That is not rest for the body to be able to rejuvenate. So the more stress we put on our body, whether it's our lifestyle or the food we eat, the harder and the more the body needs to rejuvenate. When you're already giving your body what it knows to work with a higher plant-based diet, it is not going to require the same recovery time. And this is what I found when I was naturally bodybuilding, competitively bodybuilding. When I switched over to a full-on vegan plant-based diet, my recovery time was faster. I didn't need to rest as long, and I was stronger. So that was the proof in the pudding for me. But when we go to bed, if we get the 8 hours of sleep, or let's say 6 to 8, that is the time for the body to repair. But that's probably, unless you're doing intermittent fasting right now, or you're on a fast for 30 days or whatever, that is the longest period of time we've gone without eating, right? So the word breakfast, it's break fast. So to wake up in the morning and eat a heavy laden breakfast of eggs and animal flesh and carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates, we know we'd never do that if we were coming off a fast, but every morning we're coming off a fast. So the first thing that we want to do is have a citrus, lemon, lime, even orange slices of water. The first thing, because citrus is going to work with the lymphatic system to help it function more efficiently. And then wait 20 minutes. Wait 20 minutes, unless you're intermittent fasting and you're going to go till noon. Okay, we understand that. And then go into something like nature's cereal, which would be your seasonal berries. Sometimes I'll add coconut water, or coconut smoothie, which is just coconut water and coconut meat, blend it, and that's it. And that's what I'll have for breakfast. Because think about it, you're letting your body kick back in. You don't want to give it heavy foods, and foods that are going to make the digestive system work harder. And then you're sluggish when you go to work, and then we grab a cup of coffee, and it's just all day you're trying to catch up, and you don't understand why you have foggy brain or your skin doesn't glow. Is it beginning to make sense? So think about not just the money we put in our skincare, physical, topical skincare products, anywhere from our body, right? I know I keep focusing here because that's what you can see most, but I want you to think from head to toe to the bottom of your feet. How are you and what are you putting on your body? And how are you thinking about the skin you're in? Do you hug yourself in the morning and tell yourself you love yourself? I do. Otherwise, I don't step outside. I don't. I have my own ritual. I've been doing this for years, and I wake up with a sense of purpose. So I'm very passionate about what I do. I'm very blessed to be able to do what I do and make a living through being a plant-based chef and a holistic consultant. I work with a lot of companies since I stopped having my own practice hands-on. But these are all things that you can immediately start making an improvement on, not just your face or your body, but how you feel. And don't change anything, just add the things I'm sharing. Because after a while, you'll be like, I don't even have cravings for that particular food I thought I couldn't live without. People always talk about, oh, I'd rather die than give up whatever favorite food you have. And it's slowly killing us. So I always work to make food and serve people food and serve people ideas to live for. So let's be mindful of our words because they become our truth. Inflammation is very important, and we're exposed to a lot of things that create inflammation in the body. I've been talking about that. So spirulina is something I've been taking for years. This happens to be from the company E3 Life because I think, and throughout their history and my body and how I've shared this with other people, I drink about an ounce of this every day in the morning after I have my water. 20 minutes ago, I'm going to have this, and then I'm going to go into my berries. But algae, spirulina, aqua botanicals, and this particular one coming from Lake Klamath in Oregon is probably one of the oldest and purest foods that we can eat, and it's a food. Everything I'm showing you that isn't in a whole food source is a whole food supplement, not synthetic. So it may, yes, have been extracted, but it's cold pressed, it's raw, because when we heat our foods, we break down nutrients. If you boil, you're going to take the minerals out, and we usually toss the water. Keep that water if you're boiling something. That's not something I'd recommend, but if you are, your vegetables, make sure you keep that water and use it in your stock. But these are whole foods. So if you're getting supplements, because we have stressful lives today, so we may need to supplement to support where we might be lacking in the amount of food and the amount of calories to get all the vitamins and minerals and nutrients we need, yes, to have a beautiful skin, but that skin being the mirror of the body, letting us know, for most cases, that things are moving pretty well. I mean, you know, when we eat, I'm going to get personal here, we should be in about 30 minutes having some kind of movement. Our body should be eliminating solid matter. But when I talk to people and they'd come in for facials and I'd see dullness or areas where skin was breaking out, and then there was this dull tone to the skin, almost like a yellow tone, I could always tell they weren't eliminating properly. And they'd look at me, you know, they're laying on the bed and their eyes would open up because I'd say, well, how often do you eliminate? I don't want to get too personal, but this is a part of skincare for me. And I've studied traditional Chinese medicine and I've studied Ayurveda. So these are things we talk about, and they'd go, how can you tell? And I'd say it's showing here in the small intestinal area of the face, here in the digestive area, the large intestines and the small intestines in the forehead. I mean, the face is a map of all the organs of the body, just like the hands, the ears, and the feet. Reflexology, if you're studied in this, you know the feeling and what you see on someone where internally something's going on or something stagnant. That's what we mean by the mirror. The skin is the mirror of the body. Underneath the eyes, puffiness, that's showing the kidney region of the area. And then our ears, about the size of our kidneys, is the whole organ body. It also looks like an upside fetal child, and you can just massage your ears and you'll feel a tingling and you'll increase blood flow. So when we talk about beauty, it's not just held at the face for me. It's about a feeling and energy that we're working with. But when I talk about spirulina here, and then I talk about blue magic, this is a pigment, an element that's extracted out of the spirulina And if you're looking at, say, Lake Klamath, you're going to see that blue-green. That's why it's called blue-green algae. This has been shown in studies to really help with immune building. This is whole food, this is whole food. But this specifically I take after I work out to help with joint and inflammation. So it's not to have to take all of these things. It's to know they're available, and then what is it that is ailing you, or where do you need to go and give more support and emphasis to your body? Does that make sense? Because that result, the end result, the benefit, the side effect is positive for the skin. So it's kind of this inner and outer world that we live in that we want to be mindful of. And when you wake up in the morning, start paying more attention to how does your skin look? Where are there puffy areas? Where, if you just touch your shoulders or your back of your neck, when we get stressed or tensed here, that's going to start slowing down or causing stagnation in blood flow and lymphatic drainage. And that is also what may make us look more tired and look older than we are. If you're not getting oxygen that the blood is carrying to the cells, you're going to get, your skin's going to look a little bit dull. It's not going to have vibrancy. We're losing, as I'm talking, dead skin cells from the stratum corneum all day long. Our total cell turnover of the whole body and organs, people have said, studies have shown it takes like 7 years. But again, that depends on you individually. We are all bio-individual. So when we talk about these things, food matters. What we eat matters. People say we are what we eat, that saying you've heard of, but it's really we are what we absorb. So one of the first questions I would get when I went all vegan over 20 years ago was, where do you get your protein? And every plant in the plant-based kingdom has protein, contains protein. And there's the controversy of, well, animal protein is superior to plant protein. Well, I don't know if you've watched what a cow or what a pig or what a chicken or what any other animal we know eats. If humans aren't putting it down for them, they're eating plants. The gorilla is eating plants. I don't think they have a problem with protein. So this is a protein I've taken. It's plant-based and it's organic. It's sprouted brown rice. It's pea protein. It's not isolates. Again, when you start getting into products, be they plant-based or not, I'm going to say, and you read isolates, they've isolated that component and it's not whole and it's not going to give us the nutrients that we need. But because we need protein, like we need carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates, and we need fats from avocados and olives, our fruits and our nuts and our seeds that have more oil versus expeller pressed liquid oils that can clog our arteries if we're not really cleansing our body and flushing our body with fiber and such. Protein is what we need, but we need to be able to break that down into amino acids for it to do the job. Amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So we take protein in, but the body must be able to break it down so the different amino acids that have different functions for different cellular turnover can work. So you want a quality protein. And again, I have this in my smoothie, or I just take it in my oat milk or my nut milk. Depends on if you have nut allergies. It's gluten-free, it's organic, it's sprouted, and it has many other things. And again, Christy, I'm going to give you resources to all of this. So at least we can do our research. At least if you have some of these things, you can compare it to what's out there, because knowledge is power if we know what to do with it. Christy, how are we on time? Because I know I could take you guys all the way into dinner, and then we could all figure out how to transport ourselves to the Raven. Are we good on
are
time,
still
Christy?
doing pretty good. We've got, we're at 3:40 right now.
Okay, I'm gonna transition now. Hang in with me, guys. I have so much to share with you. I do want to say mushrooms, mushrooms, mushrooms. Please get them into your diet. They are so good for us. Organic mushrooms, knowing where your mushrooms are sourced. I have a chaga, which is, they grow on birch trees in the North Hemisphere, but chaga is like the king of mushrooms, right? And again, it's a whole food. It's cold pressed and then ground. You can get them different ways, but it builds the immune system. It's rich in antioxidants. It has a source of vitamin D, your B vitamins, so many, the spectrum of vitamins and minerals, but again, whole foods. Think about when you go to take a supplement, is it a whole food that can support your whole food spectrum? And when I say spectrum, how we eat, you know, how wide is our spectrum across and how colorful it is it? You want to eat the rainbow because all the colors in our world, whether we're playing with paints and painting and we visually see it or we're taking it in, has a different benefit. Carotenoids found in your, you know, carrots, which contain beta carotene, which is a water soluble source of vitamin A that is important for the supplementation and moisturization of the skin. Transepidermal, protecting against water loss, is so important because when we take in beta carotene, which is a water soluble source of vitamin A, it's going to then be converted into the body as retinol, and then that's how we build the cells there. So there's really a science to this, but it gets so exciting. So let's kind of transfer into, okay, we're eating right, Nina. We're getting all these things down. I've got my checklist of things to look at. What is in my diet? So I'm eating my skincare, but what about what I put on my skin? Topically, I want to leave you with this thought. There's two products I've used primarily in my skincare practice, holistic, and one is Algae, like I like Algae. It's from Hungary and it's all raw, so cold pressed. They're not using heat again to break down the nutrients, just like we don't want to do that 100% with our foods. So Algae from Hungary, I use this in my practice. I was a sales rep for Southern California, and it is seeds and fruits and vegetables, and not everything in their line because they use some honey. So if you don't do any honey, I haven't done honey for years. They do have, and they outline the products that are vegan in their line. And then the other product that I love is Dr. Algai's, which is all plant-based, all vegan, cold pressed, and his masks are powdered. So you've got like a flower power mask that has lavender and marigold and chamomile and blue chamomile. And he has a universal mask that's like a salad bowl that you put on your face. And Dr. Algai's says, if you wouldn't eat it, don't put it on your skin. And to that regard is our skin absorbs so much of what we put on it that you want to be mindful, hence aluminum and things that we're putting on our skin that we now know today are being absorbed and causing problems. So you want to be mindful of your skincare products. You want to look for products, and they don't talk about it so much, but now we know you want it more organic. You want to know the source of it. You want it, both these products are raw. And again, I'll give Christy the information so you can look at what's available for them. But it's like putting food on your skin, right? You can take the chia, I could make a whole smoothie mask for my skin. I could blend up the berries and put that in the chia and then put it on my skin and get a benefit and be mindful of the money that I'm spending and be aware of the ingredients. Really looking at ingredients is important, but I also know that labels don't always tell you a lot. Usually the first 3 to 5 ingredients are the things that they're using most of, but with FDA, you can play with the label. Companies can play with the label, and I've had many years in skincare, so I'm very mindful of this. Another thing I really love as an aromatherapist is aromatherapy. I'm going to share with you 4 essential oils I really like using. not just for my skin, because when you talk about aromatherapy, you're first going to inhale something like lavender. And I wish we had smell-o-vision so you could smell this, but I'm sure most of us have smelt lavender. There's lavender tea. You can grow lavender in your flower herb garden, but it's very calming and relaxing, but it's a universal oil. We speak about it balances yin and yang in traditional Chinese medicine. Yin tends to be, pulled in and cool, where yang, if you're very, out there in the world, you're using a lot of heat. If people have hot flashes, that's a very yang type of thing. If you're always cold, that's more yin. Working with lavender, such as taking a lavender bath, putting lavender on your feet and massaging them, putting lavender on your shoulders and relaxing, and then breathing that in on your temple can really have an effect on the whole body, on your mood. And then that's a part of your beauty self-care program, because mentally how we feel is going to also, as I started out saying, is going to have an effect on what we present to the world, how we feel inside with ourselves. And I think today, through what we've been going through and what we're still going through, essential oils can be very medicinal, very energetically healing for us, and very in the spiritual realm. There's a huge spectrum in aromatherapy and essential oil work. So lavender I always travel with, and lavender is one of the essential oils that I can put directly. You only need a couple of drops. I can put it on directly on my skin. We call it neat, meaning I don't have to put it in avocado oil or a jojoba oil or a grapeseed oil. And I can just, even I'll use this instead of a alcoholic hand sanitizer, because essential oils in their nature are antifungal, antiviral, antiseptic. But then I'll cover just my nose and inhale that and breathe deeply. And if someone's having anxiety, I don't really have anxiety attacks, but if someone's having an anxiety attack, or you're traveling and people don't like to fly, just carrying something like lavender can really calm you down and relax you, because when we're tense, when we're anxious, we're going to get tight in our skin, and that's going to slow down what we know now: circulation, blood flow, getting oxygen to the cells, and our lymphatic drainage. I love tea tree. This is another oil that you can put on neat. You only need a drop. You only need a drop of it. It's not something you necessarily want to smell like lavender, but it's higher concentrations of antiseptic and antimicrobial. So if you had a blemish, and you hadn't had a blemish forever, and it's a hormonal blemish, you could take a Q-tip and just put a little of the tea tree. And you don't want to hold it on too long. Essential oils are powerful, but you could just swipe over to really clean that topically. Don't go in and try to dig it out. Just stop. You'll scar your skin. I've seen so many people scar their skin through this, and we can heal the skin. And essential oils are cell turnover. So you want the skin to turn over. You want to cleanse the skin, and essential oils will do that for you. Peppermint is wonderful. It's your natural Vicks. You put this in a carrier oil like jojoba or your grapeseed oil or rosehip oil, just a drop. And I'm going to either smell this to wake me up, or if I've got chest congestion, I'm going to put it in a carrier oil. You do not put peppermint directly on the skin like you could lavender or tea tree. It will burn more because of its respiratory, just its rejuvenating action. But if I'm congested here, I can then massage it. Or if I'm stopped up here, just a little bit, inhaling. And then when you get into aromatherapy work as a trained aromatherapist, you know how to blend oils. So that's what I would do for people. I would blend oils specific to their need. And lemon, citrus essential oils are just a mood, happy, good feeling type. Think about when you're eating an orange. If you think about it, that inhalation of that smell of that orange, that peeling, I have an orange right on me, but that peeling of the lemon, there's a juice that's gonna squeeze out. That's the essential oil right there. So essential citrus essential oils are cold pressed. There's different ways we get the essence, the life out of fruits and flowers and bark and roots to make essential oils. For the skin particularly, something like frankincense or rose geranium, you'll see these things, lavender, or even citrus in skincare products for the skin to have a cellular activity. If I squeeze this and rub it on my skin, which I'm doing, the essential oil I said earlier is lipophilic. Even though these look like water, they're not oily. They're not oily until I put them in a carrier oil. These get into the follicle, so they're oil loving because they blend into the sebum in the follicle, and that's how then it can be shown, if tested properly with the right equipment, into the bloodstream. So citrus are very good for lymphatic drainage, or if someone has cellulite or fluid, retention, or you're working to release, I say waste, not weight. We're looking to lose waste, not necessarily weight. So we lose weight and waste, and people think, well, I've lost weight. No, we're the right weight. We have waste, we have fat cell buildup. Fat cells expand, So you want to shrink them. You want to work with the lymphatic system to carry that toxicity out. You want to increase blood flow and circulation to feed the cells. It's like, again, I cross everything. It's like going to a restaurant. You've got the food coming, but when you're through, the waiter or the food server takes away the waste, and then more food comes so you can nourish the cells. So always in beauty, as I've been trained, we've got to remove stagnation and toxicity so then the skin can take up the nutrients. I said lavender, I love peppermint, lemon or citrus. You can get orange, or you could get lime. Lemon is just very popular, and tea tree. That is what I carry, I travel with. It's like my first aid kit and my beauty kit. Most essential oils are not meant to be taken internally. So be mindful when people start talking about taking essential oils internally. If you're going to go there, I'll put it on your radar. Make sure you know that they're food grade essential oils, and I'll supply a reference for a food grade essential oil company out of England that I've gone to France to train with. All right, so we have things like, you want to make sure you cleanse your skin twice a day. You want to make sure you use a toner if that's something you're into, but you want to make sure you have the right moisturizer. And then you want to exfoliate and help remove some of those dead skin cells that are going to make your skin glow more. We already know you want to be mindful of lymphatic drainage and improving circulation, but once or twice a week, you want to put a mask on your face. That could be one you make, or that could be a product that you like that you use. All of these things get very personal and customized to your needs for your skin, your time of the month, especially those of us as women. And then what are some of the tools that I've used in my own practice and I use on myself? I always have guaranteed to my clients, I never put anything on their skin. I never use a technique that I haven't used on myself first and seen results that I believe in. So these tools here, this is rose quartz, this is obsidian lava rock, this is jade. These are all tools. This is really cool, this jade. So I can roll the skin, and just this kind of motion is having an impact and a positive benefit on lymphatic drainage. So in the morning, I'm going to do these types of things. I like rose quartz because it's very healing. And so you're just draining this way with supporting the lymph, and it's a light draining back at about a 45-degree angle that I would be able, after I've cleansed, after I've removed maybe my exfoliant. You can do this daily to help relax after a stressful day, or if you've been sitting at the computer all day, if your neck has been like this. So you do want to make sure you cover the back of the neck, get up into the occipital, up into the scalp, acupressure points. And then I have tools like this. I'm just a manic tool, and I believe in energy from gems. So again, these are cool. They hold cool temperature, so they feel really good on the skin. Instead of, I see people, or I see things, videos that show people dipping their face in ice cubes. That is too shocking for the skin. You can control this here. I'm not going to take a straight ice cube to the face. Be very careful. That can shock the skin too much, especially if you have thinner skin or more sensitive skin. But something like this, very cool feeling, you can just press on your face. And if there's any sensitivity, that's where you have an acupressure point that's probably just stagnant. The chi energy isn't flowing properly. And then we get into our, what I love, globes. And these are stainless steel. In my skincare practice, they would have glass globes, and they'd be filled with a solution that kept them cold. So we call this cryotherapy, because the temperatures feel cold. And just like I'm moving over my makeup that I put on, this is great for setting your makeup. It's great if you have tension headaches. It's great if you wake up with puffy eyes, and we've got gold sticks that you can put over your eyes. Gold is known to be antiseptic. So there's so many different things you can get into, but I really wanted in this time just to show you the plethora of things that you can do for, we say beauty, but it's really natural hygiene. If we are taking care of our bodies and we're very mindful of natural hygiene, the things we're putting in our body, the things we're putting on our skin and our body, that's just natural hygiene from naturopath. When you talk about naturopathy, that is what which naturally live in. We live in a very synthetic and chemical world, and we've got to be mindful of those chemicals from what we cleanse our house with and we're inhaling. That goes straight into our brain, that gets into our blood system, even at an aromatic level. So I hope this was helpful. I hope it increased, as Joan said, curiosity, that you'll go and look and just take inventory of what's in your bathroom right now. Just observe, don't be judgmental. Just take inventory of what's there now, what you've been using, what's been working, what hasn't been working, and then you can start. This is the best season to do it, in spring, to do a spring cleaning, and then fall is another part of the year that it's great to do a really deep cleaning and detoxing of the body, the mind, and the spirit. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Nina. That was absolutely fascinating. You covered such a broad spectrum, and I'm just so
My head is
excited
going
about all
like
this
this.
information. And I remember when we spoke, I've been so curious about the jade rollers and like the rose quartz crescents and things. I've been so interested in trying those. I've just felt kind of a little afraid of them, and now I feel like I know what I can do with them, and I'm so excited about it.
This is called a gua sha. Gua, G-U-A, sha, S-H-A. In Chinese, that means scrape.
Gua
So
sha.
gua sha. And I'll
That's it,
send you all
right.
this information. But
Thank
you
you
could
so
go
much.
to an acupuncturist and they might use something like this, but oftentimes you'll see pictures where it's very red and almost looks bruised, because they want to bring the blood up also as a part of getting pure blood up to the surface to help heal. You don't want to do that. No, none of us want to do that to our skin. So working with gua sha stones for the face is a very light movement. And then something like this is just the matter of the shape, is helping to drain and be very cooling. So when we use cool temperatures, we're constricting and tightening. So then we can make the pores for a period of time seem smaller. Your skin, your makeup will stay on longer. But when we use warm temperatures, we're relaxing. So then more can be taken in by the skin.
I love that. And I love like preparing your face like as a palette to put on your makeup. Like,
yes,
do some prep work and then your makeup's going to last longer and stay with you all day. We did have one question. Well, it's it's a series of questions, but it's all tied to the same condition. Are you familiar with, let me see if I can pronounce this correctly, seborrheic dermatitis and the candida and hair loss that's caused by that?
Yeah, candida is a yeast issue in the body, and that needs to be one that has candida, and we all have candida. We all have yeast in the body, and it feeds on sugars. So thank you for saying that, because processed sugars are one of the fastest aging foods we can eat. It causes aging and all kind of things in the body. Obviously, we know type 2 diabetes, but when there's too much sugar in the system, yeast feeds on that. And because we all have like we have bacteria in the body, we have yeast in the body, but sugars feed yeast. So when there's too much sugar in the body, yeast is going to take over, and then it starts having an impact on our organs. And you'll see that through what you just said, hair loss, because nutrients aren't getting to the hair follicle. You'll see that in skin rashes, seborrheic skin conditions where the skin is always flaky, dandruff. And so you want to go on a candida diet. And depending on, and usually you're going to need to see a naturopathic doctor or a natural hygienist to really help you with this. This is not something so much like food isn't really, or nutrition isn't something that a medical doctor tends to have a lot of time and studying in, but candida can be, we all have an amount of candida, but when it takes over the body, then you have to go on a pretty strict anti-candida diet to cleanse the body, but you can do that. And candida can be the cause of many other type ailments that can then go from dis-ease. So we have health, we have wellness, and then our body, through stress and lifestyle and toxicity, we get into a dis-ease state. And if that dis-ease, if I don't deal with this nagging neck pain and chronic, I'm rolling, if I don't deal with that, it's going to lead to something worse. So if we don't deal with candida, it's going to take over, and then you're going to start seeing these things. But that isn't something we something we use topically. We've got to go in and clean out our system and work with someone that understands that. You can Google it and find people to really help you cleanse your body of the yeast. Now, we're not going to get 100% rid of yeast because it's a part of what our body is, but we can get control of it. And we need to also, with all I've said, but thank you again, Chrissy, we need to be mindful of eating a higher alkaline diet, because when we eat foods that are rich or full of acid, and those foods tend to be things that, don't have fiber, like animal protein and such, our system gets too acidic, and then that becomes a problem. So a high whole foods, plant-based diet, fruits and vegetables, blueberries are more acidic, but they're beneficial. It's not like eating meat that has no fiber and very acidic. It's harder for the body to digest. Dairy is harder for the body to digest. Dairy has casein, which has been proven to show liver cancer, right? So yes, so candida can be a serious thing, but we all have some level of it, and you can get control of it.
That is such a good thing to think about too, especially because not every solution is going to work for every person. That's such great advice. Like, seek out a nutritionist. Thank you so much for that. Great question, because I think that's something that everybody should really think about if you're having any of these kind of ailments. Like, plant-based nutritionist is a great place to start if you're having these kind of issues. Definitely check out a plant-based nutritionist. And Nina, thank you so much for this.
Thank you. And seek out specialists. Like, maybe you want to go to an osteopath, a DO instead of an MD, that really looks at the whole body. And that's been their span of study, like an MD, versus in MD that is picking up lifestyle medicine, but has that been their practice for most of their work in this field? And I think it's wonderful that we're all learning more, but this has been a lifelong study of things that, again, it's natural hygiene is what we call it. And that's just where we should naturally be taking care of our body so we never get to that disease state.
Yes, avoiding the disease state is definitely something we all want to do.
It's easier to prevent it than it's going to take longer to reverse it. But most things are reversible, but you've got to be diligent.
Oh, yes. And get advice from the right people.
Exactly.
Get advice from the right people, be diligent, and whole foods, plant-based diet for the win.
Yes, I agree. I hope everyone enjoyed this.
It was wonderful, Nina. Thank you so much. And I'm just so excited about all of the information that you've given us, like truly from the inside out. Like, here's what you can do to eat to make your skin better. And here are some topical techniques and solutions. And I love that there's things in your own house that you can utilize. It's been really informative, and I can't thank you enough. It's always such a joy to work with you, Nina. Thank you.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you for having me.
I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. And just a reminder, everybody, if you're tuning in later, we mentioned a little while ago, we are going to be doing a raffle at the end of the event at 5. So you can participate in the raffle. We'll be raffling off a San Francisco Veg Society t-shirt with our new logo, the green V, if you've seen that on our social media. So we're going to be raffling off a shirt, and we'll have it custom made in your size. I'll just, if you are the winner, I'll reach out to you and get that information from you. You can participate in the raffle by doing a donation on our PayPal account. For a $10 donation, you get 2 raffle tickets. So, and we'll be putting those in the raffle drawing throughout the event. And we've had quite a few donations already. Thank you so much. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get into some hair care with Miss Tina from Vroom. Thank you so much, Nina. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Have a great day.
You too.
Video. And
I'm Tina, Tina Brennan. Thank you, Christy, for inviting me to do this. I have only done, I haven't done anything like this on Zoom. The only thing I've done is some one-on-one hair tutorials for those of my friends who were in desperate, dire need for haircuts and wanted to know how to give themselves haircuts. So that's the only time I've really used Zoom. Okay, so I basically have a couple DIY hair treatments, if you will, that I wanted to share. To be honest, I haven't been much of a DIYer. I have a toddler, or an infant. I don't really have a whole lot of time for DIY these days. But I was excited to do this because I was like, hey, let's try something new and, see what works and what sounds like snake oil. So first thing I made is an exfoliating scalp scrub. So I made this actually last night and did it to myself, and it actually was great. So pretty simple ingredients, 2 tablespoons of ground coffee, which you can use from the coffee that you made this morning. It doesn't necessarily have to be fresh. 2 tablespoons of cane sugar, and 2 tablespoons of jojoba oil if you have it. You can also use almond oil, or if you're in a pinch, you can use olive oil, whatever's in your kitchen. I personally like to use jojoba oil because it's the best at being like it's basically best at mimicking hair and skin's natural sebum. So some of the benefits of caffeine is it's high in antioxidants and helps to get blood circulating and helps to balance pH. And cane sugar works as a natural exfoliant. There's alpha hydroxy acids. So basically the gentle abrasion that you're getting when you're massaging it into your scalp helps to clear up basically any dead skin cells that are there and unclog pores. And like I said, jojoba oil it's moisturizing. It's actually antibacterial. It's non-comedogenic. It's hypoallergenic. And like I said, it's the best at mimicking your skin's natural sebum. You can add any essential oils to this if you like. You can opt for tea tree oil, which is antibacterial and anti-inflammatory. So if you have itchy scalp, then that's good for that. Or lavender oil can improve your mood and aid sleep. So I actually added lavender oil last night, and I did this before bed to kind of relax me. I've had sort of a very stressful week with my wonderful, wonderful child that I love so much. They have not been sleeping very well. So I put this on in the shower. It turned out it was pretty messy. So I recommend doing this over a counter, over a sink, preferably in your shower. But the great thing is since it was basically all over my body, I was able to kind of use it as a body exfoliant as well. And my skin felt really, really quite nice afterwards. And so that's one I did last night. Here's kind of another version. It's basically kind of very similar, but you can add shampoo to it this time. I actually shampooed that one out. This one has the shampoo in, so it's kind of takes away an extra step that you don't have to do. This one has baking soda, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, apple cider vinegar with the mother, and then once again, essential oils if you so desire. So baking soda is a natural antiseptic. It's got antibacterial properties, and basically it can reduce bacteria on the scalp. Apple cider vinegar balances hair and scalp pH. And it also helps to flatten and close hair cuticles, which makes your hair smoother and shinier. And basically makes it easier to detangle and less prone to breakage. With both of these masks or both these scrubs, it's best to use them fresh the day you make it. So yeah, you don't really want to store these and keep them around. And they took, a minute to make, so it's easy peasy. And then I made, here's another one. So this is another flaxseed gel mask, which I had been kind of seeing around and have never made. I have flax seeds. I bake with them. I use them as egg replacer. So I was like, cool, a gel of flaxseed. We'll see how that works. So I used a third cup of, you can use brown or golden flaxseed. I used brown, and I recommend using whole flaxseed, and I'll show you here in a minute why, as opposed to ground flaxseed, although you can totally use ground flaxseed. 2.5 cups of water and a tablespoon of jojoba oil. So here's, so basically you boil the water and then you add the flax seeds. And then you reduce the heat and you keep it on kind of a low boil for about 10 to 15 minutes. I chose 14, that seemed to work. You want to make sure you're basically stirring this mixture the entire time. Kind because it does, the seeds tend to clump and stick to the side of the pan, the bottom. So you want to make sure you're just constantly stirring. And then you'll kind of see the little bubbles and it starts to get kind of, kind of viscous and gelatinous. It's not going to turn into its final state quite yet, but you'll start to see that it's getting kind of sticky and stringy. And that's usually when it's done. So then you want to let it cool for about 30 minutes. You can let it cool for longer. And then you're going to strain the flax seeds. You can use a cheesecloth, which is what I used, or you can use pantyhose, stockings, tights, anything like that, and strain, and all that sort of gelatinous stuff will come out, and put it in a mason jar, and that's what I did. And you add about a tablespoon of jojoba oil to that mix. And so here I have my jar of flaxseed gel here, and it's really jiggly. And so here is, if you can look up close, the difference between the two. The one on the left has the ground flax. You'll see a lot of the ground flax particles. I strained it like 3 or 4 times just to try to remove as much of that as possible, but I still couldn't. There was still a lot of little granules and bits. Not a huge deal. That was the one I ended up using last night, and it definitely, here's what my hair looked like this morning. It definitely felt like a very lightweight gel in my hair, but you can see there's all those little bits of the flax. Now, I was doing this as a mask treatment and not as gel, as a product, a styling product, which it can be used for either or. So I wanted to do it as a treatment. So it didn't really bother me that there were all these little flax bits in my hair, because I knew I was just going to rinse it out anyways. But if you're planning on using this as a styling product, you're going to want it to be, like this picture. You want it to have you want it to be as, translucent as possible. So this one is, the one on the right is much clearer. There aren't any little flax bits in it. There aren't any seeds in it. Also, when you strain all the seeds, you want to keep those seeds. You can use them. Don't throw them out. You can get about 2 runs of the flax gel. So you can do the whole process over again and get some more gel, or you save them and you make some flax, bread, or muffins or something with it. So waste not, want not. But here, I'll show you what this. So this is after it's been in the fridge overnight. It's almost like a gack, It's really, really slimy. For lack of better words here, it's kind of like, mucusy. But this is what you get. And I actually, after I rinsed it out, I rinsed it out for about 2 minutes with cool water. My hair felt pretty soft. It actually felt pretty soft. And then I blew it dry, which I haven't done in over a year. I haven't cut my hair in over a year. So my hair is kind of, for me, it's kind of a mess. I'm looking forward to going and getting a professional haircut. As a professional, I prefer getting my hair cut by someone else. And I've also been dealing with postpartum hair. So my hair has just been feeling kind of dry and tangly and knotty. So the fact that I was able to kind of comb through it fairly easily, and I didn't use with my blow dry, I normally use some kind of like a blow dry balm or something like that to kind of help. I didn't use anything blow drying my hair, just what was left from the flax. And other than about 4 inches of hair that needs to go, I mean, it feels pretty good. All my what I call my grays, my tinsels felt like they were like extra shiny. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised. It also light scent. It smells almost kind of nutty, almost cinnamony, but very, very faint. So not an offensive odor whatsoever. So flax gel, yay, it was a win. I wanted to show flax gel as a styling product. I have doll heads scattered throughout my house, and I was going to do it on some 4C Afro textured hair just to show you what that was like. But I have my infant, and that didn't go as planned. So I apologize that I'm not able to do a hands-on demo for you. But what I will do is when I get a chance, I will do the gel on my doll head, on my 4C doll head, and I will post photos on my Instagram or my Facebook or somewhere where you can see what the, for those of you who are interested, what the results are like as a styling gel. All right. So now we saw that. So the next one, the next DIY that I'm going to talk about is this rice water cleanse that I've been hearing about for several years. But to me, it's one of those things where, like I said, I think a lot of DIYs are kind of like, but I actually had a lot of fun with this. But there's a very interesting sort of history with where the whole rice water cleanse phenomena came from. So let's talk about them. And this is the Red Yao women. So Huanglo Yao is home to the Red Yao people. They're an indigenous community in southern China. So these women are basically known for, the picture shows the bright red clothing with very decorative embroidery. They all hand embroider their clothes. And they're extremely, extremely long hair. In fact, they're known for having some of the longest hair in the world, which is kind of cool. So their long hair is, growing their long hair is a tradition. So some of these women have up to 6 feet of hair. They only cut their hair once in their life, around the age of 16 to 18, and that's kind of like their rite of way coming of passage into womanhood. So that's just the one time. And then they also, how they wear their hair signifies their marital status, whether they have children. So like someone who's unmarried actually will not show their hair at all, where women who are married have these sort of more elaborate hair wraps where they wrap their hair around. And in fact, after they cut their hair around 16 to 18, they keep that hair. And then that hair is then incorporated into these traditional hairstyles to make them look bigger and fuller, which is pretty cool. They attribute their long hair to basically, the rice water is a centuries-old tradition. So basically, they're rinsing their hair with this rice water concoction about once a week. And each family has their own sort of like secret rice water recipe. But what they kind of, the version that they share with basically those who are interested is pretty simple. It's just the white rice that's grown in their region, tea bran, and pomelo peel. And so they will boil this rice, take that rice water, and the tea bran and pomelo peel, and they will ferment it. And then they use this on their hair, leave it on for about 20 minutes, 30 minutes, I think up to an hour is what they said, and then rinse it. And then they rinse it out in basically in fresh spring water. So, which sounds really, really lovely. I mean, we don't have that. So, so this is all very interesting. So here is kind of my take on the whole fermented rice water protein treatment. So I chose long grain jasmine or basmati rice, 2 cups of water. You can do a peeled pomelo. I didn't have pomelo, so I did a grapefruit. And then I added, so this is where I kind of went off and did my own version. If you go and you look up rice water rinses, excuse me, there are so many different versions. There are versions where you just have the rice sit in water, take that water and then ferment it. There are ones where you don't ferment at all. You just take that rice water, wash your hair immediately. There's ones where you boil the rice water and ferment it. So, and different ingredients are added. Some have essential oils. You're dealing with fermentation, so sometimes those smells can get a little funky. I mean, that's why they use the pomelo peel, is to kind of mask any fermented odor, but also essential oil can help with that. But this is what I used is I put in, so the grapefruit peel, and then I added a tablespoon of shiitake extract, and that is, it's basically, it's like a natural, shampoo. It's a plant that's known for being, it's a climbing shrub that's mostly in India, and it's used as a hair cleanser. So I used that, and then a half a teaspoon of foti root or hishowu extract, and then a tablespoon of camellia seed oil. So some people are like, well, which do you use? Do you use brown rice or do you use white rice? Well, the Red Yeah women use white rice. But I was looking, there are people who use brown rice. So I was like, I don't know, I've never made this before. So I looked up, what's kind of the difference between using a brown rice rinse and a white rice. And so brown rice has, obviously it's white rice with just a jacket on. So it carries all the bran, which has all the nutrients. So what that is known for, the nutrients, the bran basically is known for expanding the anagen cycle or the growth phase of hair, which is interesting. I was pretty shocked by that. I was like, oh wow, how much truth is there to that? I honestly don't know. But anagen is, like I said, anagen is the growth. So your hair goes through 3 phases: anagen, catagen, and telogen. One's anagen is a growing phase. Catagen, I think of like cat as a catnap, is like a resting dormant phase. And then the telogen is basically a shedding phase. Your anagen phase usually lasts for about 7 years. So this basically says that the bran can help keep that growing cycle going for longer. So sometimes you feel like, oh, my hair kind of just reaches this one spot and doesn't seem to grow. And that might just be the end of your growth cycle, which is why it feels like it just kind of stops. Brown rice is also higher in amino acids. So white rice is starchier. So that starch, I think, is what conveys a little bit more of the elasticity and shine that this rice water cleanse is promoting. Something that I did look up, and there's actually some scientific backing to this is that the rice proteins can actually protect against UV damage. So overall, the whole, what it's promoting is shine, elasticity, and aiding in hair growth. And let's see. So, and then the faux tea is a traditional Chinese medicinal, and that's used a lot with the health of skin and hair. And it's supposed to be good for sort of itchy scalp, or if you get any sort of scalp eruptions, or, you know, some people do get clogged pores and acne and stuff on their scalp. So it's supposed to help with that. And then camellia oil is an emollient that helps to keep your hair feeling moisturized, and it's absorbed quickly into the hair. And like I said, these claims are kind of a mix of science and anecdotal. So take what you will. But I wanted to bring it down that there's no, you know, everything, there's so many claims for this is going to grow your hair super fast and this is going to do that. And once again, I don't necessarily buy into everything that, you know, I'm told. And hair growth really comes down to a few factors, not just what you're putting on topically, but it comes down to basically nutrition, your hormones, the health of your scalp, and the strength of your hair. So you kind of have to keep all those things in mind. So just doing a rice water protein treatment, you know, once a week isn't going to be the end all be all, but, you know, it's pretty harmless. And, you know, it's one of those things of, well, why not give it a shot? So right now I've made, so this is my process yesterday. This is me scrubbing the rice for about 10 minutes. And then because I like to know what the pH of these things are, so I tested it, and turns out it's right on the mark for healthy hair. pH is about 4.5 to 5.5. So I knew it wasn't going to be, you know, going to set my hair off. Now the fermentation can go anywhere. You can let this stuff ferment from anywhere from 1 day to 7 days. So I'm kind of, since I haven't actually put this on my hair yet, I'm kind of keeping track of daily of what the level of fermentation smell is getting at. And I'm going to basically get it to a point where it smells a little funky, but maybe not too terribly funky. And then I'm going to put it in an applicator bottle and then put it on my hair, do the whole, let it sit for 20 to 30 minutes and rinse it out. And because I use the shiitake root, I don't need to shampoo it out since that is already a natural plant shampoo. So I've almost what I did is created like basically a co-wash. So it's going to kind of do everything. Also a warning about the shiitake is that it is known to be a very serious eye irritant. So you don't want to get the powder anywhere near your eyes, or even when you have the rice water liquid, you want to make sure your hair's back when you're applying that. You don't want to get this stuff in your eyes. I saw some videos of some people who got it in their eye and it didn't look good. So there you have it. Don't want to get the soap in your eyes. Let's go back here. So for those of you who are like, I am never going to do this, there is no way I'm going to make this, and I don't like funky fermentation smells. Here is a brand that makes these really beautifully carved hair soaps that are vegan, and they're sustainably packaged. They also claim that they purchased the Longsheng rice directly from the Yao women at a 500% markup, and then they donate 5% of the profits directly back into the tribe. So sounds pretty cool. And you're supposed to reap all the same benefits that the rice water protein rinse claims to do. So, I mean, they look really, really beautiful. So if you just want something decorative and nice in your bathroom, I mean, just to have, there you have it. Or if you want to try, you know, the whole rice water craze without having to make it yourself, there you go. And what I will do is, like with the gel, I will post my results when I do it on my own hair. It's still, I'm going to give it a couple more days, I think, to ferment. And I don't think I'm going to let it go for 7 days, but I will probably give it a good 3 days of fermentation. And then I will do the whole thing and tell you what I think. And I may do it once a week and then show what like a month looks like, what my results are of a month or 2 months, and see if I feel like there are actually, you know, any benefits, you know, personal benefits. And that's the other thing is, you know, goes back to knowing your own hair. Protein, you know, because this is rice, there's protein. Protein isn't necessarily great for everyone's hair. For someone who's got lower porosity hair, you're probably not going to want to do something that's really heavy in proteins. If you have higher porosity hair, then a protein treatment's going to be great. So yeah, we learn with any products, you want to learn what your hair texture is, what your hair porosity is. And then you have a better understanding of, you know, what products, be it DIY or what's out there on the market, are going to do for you. My conclusion, these are some brands that I like, and that I've used personally. I have no affiliation with any of these, so I don't make any money by promoting them. But I get asked a lot of what brands do I like? What brands that have vegan products or that are, you know, green or have more environmentally conscious packaging. And there's quite a few out there these days, which is great. It's exciting. I mean, even just that all aside, just finding vegan friendly products. I mean, you can walk into any drugstore these days and find a slew of vegan hair care. However, I am personally very conscious of, and more conscious of, you know, what I am putting on my hair and on my skin. And I've also become extremely sensitive to synthetic fragrances. So I tend to look for things that do not have silicones, synthetic fragrances, you know, phthalates, parabens, sulfates, yada, yada. So we'll start with the top left, which is a brand called Cavella. I like them because they are a woman-owned business. They're made locally in California. Their entire line is now 100% vegan, which is super cool. They actually had a few products that I believe had maybe some silk amino acids or, you know, a few things that weren't necessarily vegan friendly, but the majority of their line was. But now it looks like they're 100% vegan. They're considered to be clean products. They don't have any synthetic fragrances. And then they have a lot of silicone-free products, which is great for people with curly hair, especially. Silicones are known to coat the hair and basically give the illusion of kind of shine and health, but they actually keep water, which your hair really needs, real moisture, from being able to penetrate the cuticle. So they coat, but then they also kind of act as a barrier to keep real moisture in. And that's definitely something that people with curly, coily, kinky hair have issue with, is that they tend to have naturally drier textures of hair. Silicone is not conducive to that. The next one over to the right is Briogeo. And they are a Black woman-owned business. They have a lot of vegan products available in their line, and they are labeled as such. So if you go onto their website, you can actually find them on Sephora. They label which products are vegan. They have a pretty wide line, so they're pretty much products for all hair types, but I think they are more geared towards the curly, coily afro textures, and all their products are silicone free. And then next to that, the black and white products is a brand called Reverie, and they are California local. They're 100% vegan line. It's a very small line, so there's only like 7, maybe 8 products total, which I like. I like simple lines that aren't, you know, they don't make me think too hard. It's like your shampoo, your conditioner, you know, your few styling aids, and that's it. I like that their packaging is, you know, it's chic. It's they have a mix of glass and plastic. I wish it was all glass or, you know, aluminum, more recyclable things. But I do like that their packaging is gender neutral. Their scents are very gender neutral, nothing too, more kind of like on the spicier, earthier side, nothing too sweet or floral. Like I said, I don't personally do synthetic fragrance. I can't. I get headaches now. And then next to that is Colt & King. And I discovered them a few years back. I believe they're out of Portland, Oregon. Their line is also a pretty small line, 100% vegan. And their packaging is like probably the most beautiful packaging I have ever seen in my life. So I have some of their stuff here. It's all very environmentally savvy, friendly, but like this is like a really heavy duty glass. I mean, I feel like it's just beautiful, you know, it's art. And then on top of that, they make great refill products to refill at home, which is great. So you don't have to constantly buy another glass bottle, another glass bottle, another glass bottle. That's Colt & King. And I think they're very, their scents are also very natural, very kind of earthy. And I feel like they're kind of more geared towards sort of the undone styling. So for people who don't necessarily want very polished looking hair. So like all these sort of cool kid shags and mullets and pixies, I think that their line works great for that. But yeah, if you're like a sleek bob person, or if you like, you know, big, huge, beautiful blowouts, probably not the line for you. And then below that, on the far left is I Dig Your Hair. Another Black woman-owned small business. And Dominica is Bay Area local, which is super awesome. She does offer a lot of vegan products in her line. Not all of them are vegan friendly. And this is definitely, while it's, you know, there's something for everyone in her line, she definitely gears her products more for curly, coily, afro-textured, the community in mind. And that with an emphasis on scalp health. So she's got a really great co-wash. I use detox oil actually on my infant. My infant has curly hair and also gets cradle cap. And I use, before I shampoo Rio, I use her detox oil, and we haven't had a problem with cradle cap since. Awesome. There was an image there, and I don't know if you can see it. It's not showing up anymore on my end, but it's Rawa, a line called Rawa, and they're a 100% vegan line. And they have ethically sourced ingredients, and their ingredients come from the Amazon, and they also put forth efforts to support the people, the Amazon people, and the plant the plants that they use in their line. And I find that their line is actually really great for kind of finer hair types. I mean, they kind of have, something for everyone, but I feel like it works really well for kind of finer, flatter hair types. And then last but not least is a brand called Away. I actually use their, they are like a salon professional brand. I used their color line. They have an organic color line. So they are also environmentally conscious packaging. Their ingredients are ethically sourced. They have a very huge range of products. So, I mean, there's definitely something for everyone. And the majority of their products are plant-based, vegan friendly. I think they have a few that may have honey or lanolin, but they are also very good on their site at labeling what products are vegan to aid from any confusion. And that's kind of it. I'm a little bummed. I wanted to end with a DIY because I get it from everyone. Like, how do I cut my bangs? I was gonna do a demo of a fringe trim, how to cut your own bangs on a doll head. But I've just been running around with my kid. I couldn't get my head perfectly on straight for this. So I'm sorry if I seem a little here and there. I have not been getting very good sleep for the past week. So I kind of feel a little zombie-ish, but this is my information. If anyone is interested in, I know we're all getting excited about potentially going back out there into the world and seeing people and doing things, and but we're still not quite there yet. So if anyone's getting antsy for a haircut and still doesn't feel comfortable about going to salons, I do know salons are open, but I'm still not until I get vaccinated am I going to think about stepping foot into a salon personally. So if anyone feels the way I do and is like, well, my hair, like I said, I've done a few one-on-one Zoom tutorials on how to cut your own hair, how to cut your kids' hair, how to cut your partner's hair, and I'm happy to do so gratis. So send me an email, shoot me a text, any product related, hair related, just want to say hi. Feel free to, reach out.
Dina, thank you so much. There's been so much great information in your presentation. I'm super excited about all the DIY stuff, and we have had several questions. So if I could bounce some questions off of you real quick.
Sure, absolutely.
So David is wondering, and he did ask Nina earlier about any specific hair or scalp treatments that you would recommend for seborrheic dermatitis. And would you recommend, are there any particular shampoos or conditioners that you would recommend for aiding in regrowing hair that has been lost through seborrheic dermatitis?
So seborrheic dermatitis. I don't know a whole lot about it. I mean, I feel like, it's obviously sebum related and then dermatitis. So it's a sebum related issue. I'll look into it. But once again, with hair growth and regenerating hair, it comes down to several factors. Like I said, there's no one topical thing that's gonna cure all. I wish there were. I would, if I knew what the magic remedy is. But if it's persistent and you've tried things out there that are meant for this particular issue, maybe it's I don't know if it's too much production of sebum, to contact a trichologist. They will have better information out there for specific scalp needs. And that's really, you want your scalp health is going to be like the most important thing with, starting to regrow hair. So yeah, I would, like I said, reach out for a trichologist and see what they have to recommend. I don't have any necessarily personal recommendations other than, maybe you can try one of these scrubs and see if that helps. Obviously, if your head is sensitive or if there's any sores or anything like that, you probably don't want to do anything that's abrasive. So yeah, I wish I had a clearer answer. But yeah, I would definitely seek a professional trichologist.
That's a great suggestion, Tina. That's a really great suggestion. I would definitely, David, I would do a Google search and try to find a trichologist in your area that you can talk to about your scalp specific needs, because everybody's scalp is different.
It's completely different. Yeah.
Yeah. The best thing to do is really get in touch with a professional who can evaluate like your personal scalp needs.
Yeah. I don't want to recommend something that may exacerbate, what's happening either.
Exactly.
I can only make some willy-nilly guesses here or there. And I also like, if this is a client of mine, I normally like to see what's going on. I have a better idea if like I have, a visual of like, oh, this is what I'm dealing with too, so I can't see this person. So it's hard for me to make recommendations.
Do you have any shower filter brand recommendations?
Oh, geez. There is, badoop. I do. I do. And I can't think, oh God, my brain is just, I do. You know what? Why don't you, whoever this person is, text me, and I don't have so much baby head fog. I can, I have been like one giant brain fart today. I can text you the one that I have. I cannot for the life of me think of the name, but it's been great. They have one for home, and I've also used their professional filter for in my salon.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. And this was another question from David. David, Tina's contact information is right there on the screen. So reach out, and then she will let you know which brand she prefers at a later time. We had a question from Kathleen regarding the coffee scrub. If somebody with gray hair uses the coffee scrub, is there a risk of transference of color, or is that safe to use on gray hair?
I mean, I don't think I don't think anything will happen to gray. I mean, I'm not fully gray, but I definitely have a lot of grays. It's not gonna affect. I don't think it's gonna make grays any dingier or yellow gray hair. Also, like the second one, you could add shampoo to it. I know a lot of people with silver and gray hair have like a violet based shampoo. You could always mix a violet based shampoo within the mix. And I mean, all the coffee grounds and everything, I mean, rinsed out really nicely. I didn't personally have a problem with that, but like I don't have 100% white hair, but it shouldn't be an issue. But you can always opt out of the coffee grounds. It's not a necessary ingredient. It's just, it was one scrub recipe that I found. So if this person is worried that their white hair might become a little bit dingy, opt out of that. Maybe add the baking soda and the apple cider vinegar one instead with the sugar and shampoo. I mean, if you Google DIY hair scrubs, I mean, there are pages full. These are just ones that I thought sounded interesting. And I was like, well, I've got coffee grounds. Like, I can do this, So it just was something I had around. And I personally liked the coffee grounds because it smelled great. And like I said, I was able to wash my body with it since it was everywhere in the shower. But yeah, if you're worried, then just opt out of the coffee grounds. Not a big deal.
That's such great advice. And find something that works for you. This is all about tying it back.
Yeah, there's no like you have to do X, Y, Z with any of these things. Like I said, I'm not usually a DIYer. I'll be honest. I'm usually like, I can't be bothered. But I was into this and I was like, why not? Why not try something and see if they work? And if I like them, I'll continue doing this myself, because if it's things I can find in my pantry, woohoo!
And how fun is that? Like to be able to do, like to create your own little self-care rituals, like these scalp treatments. I think
just
so
on a
much
whim,
fun.
and you don't have to spend a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. Give yourself a little treat, and it's not going to cost you. You can make it with things that are right there in your pantry and in your kitchen.
And don't get me wrong, I love my fancy, my fancy hair care products and my nice bottles and stuff like that. But this is great, that I didn't have to spend $30 at Sephora to get a head scrub, like cool, I'll take it.
Oh yeah, definitely. And for anybody who's gone to the Sephora and done that's magical. It's fun. It's a lot of fun, but let's be honest, we're probably not going to do that for another little while yet. So here's a way that you can treat yourself at home, and it's going to be so much less expensive as well. And it's a fun little side project too.
Oh yeah. I also forgot to share some of my favorite tools for, giving yourself a little head massage, because I don't know, maybe it's just having a baby and I'm just super stressed out and I can't wait till I can get a massage again. But in the meantime, I've been doing, my own sort of cranial massages. Nothing, it takes more than a couple minutes. I normally just kind of like move the scalp, kind of like the skin on my, like almost like you're removing it from, like you're loosening it from your skull. It's kind of a weird feeling, but I love to do that. And it really helps me relax. And then just kind of like doing this, I like to massage the base of the occipital bone. A lot of stress is there. So, can do that. There are also great little massaging tools out there. This is also great if you've got really dense hair to distribute product and really get it. Like I, for the life of me, always get shampoo back here and like I can't get it out, or I can't get it or I only get shampoo here and I don't get it under here. So a little tool like this, you put your product on it and then you're able to kind of massage it in, and then you get a little head massage with that. And I'm a tickle person. I like tickles. I like squeamish tickles, but it actually does help to stimulate your scalp as these dumb little things, these little tickle head things. And just getting that, circulation back up into your scalp. Oh. And then I also have, like Nina had is a gua sha comb. I don't use this to actually like rake through my hair. That would be really uncomfortable. But I use this to kind of just massage. It just adds a little bit more pressure than what my fingers would do. So I do this on the neck. Oh God, I'm gonna put myself to sleep. Just really massaging. Yeah, the lymphatic, and it helps to drain all that stuff. And it's just relaxing. And then this little guy is actually, it's a brush cleaner. So I found this on some site and it's like, well, I do need to clean my brushes. They're disgusting. I've got so much hair from postpartum hair shed, believe it or not. I mean, I know I look like I got a ton of hair, but I've got about half the density that I had before because I've just lost so much hair from, my hormones. So it's supposed to clean out your brushes, but I use this to tickle and scratch my scalp. Like I said, I'm a tickler. I get relaxed by being tickled, so I use this on my head too. But yeah,
I
there's so
love
many-
that. That's such a good idea. That's such a fun idea. And like, who knew all these secrets about rose quartz? That's awesome. Like, that is really like what
I didn't even know some of those. I was just like, ooh, pretty. It looks, it looks nice, but I'm one of those people. I actually have like a little mini fridge for all my face creams and stuff. I'm kind of embarrassed. Yeah. So, but I will keep it in that fridge because when it's cool, it feels so nice. Having just like, and you can use this, you can use this on your face too, like this way. This is everything, face, head, what you name it. It's great.
Oh, that is so cool. I love that. I love that. And we did have one question from Angel. Do you have any recommendations on cute hair clips?
On what?
Cute hair clips.
Cute hair clips. Oh, geez. If I'm going accessory shopping, oh man, I go on Etsy. I can find basically any cool hair thing on Etsy. Yeah.
And you're supporting an independent artist.
Yeah, I mean, there's all kinds. I mean, you can find, junk out there. You can find vintage stuff out there. You can find, whatever. I mean, I have a collection of, oh God, what is it called? Brain farting. That plastic that was really popular in the 60s and 70s. Why can't I think of what it's called? But I have a collection of these hair clips that are made from this really heavy duty plastic that was super popular. I mean, they were like there were like bracelets that were made of this plastic. It was really, really popular, and it's driving me nuts that I can't think of what it's called. But I have all these vintage hair clips made of this, plastic from like the 60s and 70s and stuff like that. I hardly ever, I have got nowhere to go, so I'm not going anywhere. I have no reason to bring out all the fancy hair stuff, but yeah, Etsy. Well, and before that, I was also going to the Alameda flea market for a lot of Bakelite. Bakelite, yes, Bakelite.
Oh yeah.
Yes, there was a Bakelite woman, and she had everything made out of Bakelite. She had all the Bakelite things, and so I got a bunch of clips from her. But you can find those on Etsy too. You can find, what can't you find on Etsy?
That's true. There's a lot of fun stuff out there for sure. And just to let everybody know, all of our presentations today were recorded, and we will be sharing those on we'll be posting them on our YouTube channel and sharing them on all of our social media. And if you're on our email list, you'll be getting that as well. And I'll follow Tina's social media so that we can get follow-ups on the hair treatment.
Yeah, I will totally do this. I made the stuff. I'm going to use it.
I think that's so fun. I mean, what a fun follow-up. That'll be awesome. I think
man,
will enjoy that.
But I will say, when I did the flaxseed mask last night, if you're wearing it as a mask, oh boy, it's messy. It's like I said, it's really gooey. And I did like a saran wrap of my hair, and then I put on like a little turby towel on top of that. And then in the middle of the night, I was like, oh God, I'm leaking. I could feel like it was leaking out. So I had to put a towel on my pillow, a towel around my neck. I was like, oh my gosh. But I still fell asleep, and I woke up and my hair was like all, kind of a little crunchy and crispy from the flax gel. But yeah, it's messy. It's messy stuff. So I guess that's DIY for you, right?
That's true. And your hair does look really shiny and super healthy.
Yeah, I haven't blown my hair dry in a million years, and I normally get a lot of frizz, and like I said, I normally have to layer products before I blow dry, and well, nope, didn't put a single blow dry aid. It was just what was left from the flax gel. So
nice.
I'll take it.
Nice. That's excellent.
Now I have to put all my hair back up so my kid doesn't pull and chew on it. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Tina. We
Yeah,
really
it was a blast.
appreciate it. And I know that you have been so busy lately. And my goodness, I have the utmost respect for you. Thank you so much for taking time out. And it's been so much fun too. I've enjoyed everybody's presentations today. This has been an absolute blast. And we'll definitely stay in touch, Tina. We'll be back in touch soon.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. If you have any additional questions for me or for our presenters or for the rest of the SFBS board, you can always get in touch with me at events@sfbs.org. That's events@sfbs.org or San Francisco Veg Society @gmail.com. Thanks so much, everybody. And we will get this edited and posted up on our YouTube channel as soon as possible. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your weekend. Stay safe. And thank you so much for joining us today. Take care, everybody. Bye.